All right, hello. How's it going? My name's Welcome back to the open debate. If you didn't know, this is the third attempt at this stream. We're gonna keep things going. Third attempt trying to get things happening here. Not too sure what's going on, but yeah, TikTok is not having a good time. Trying to have conversations between individuals. I don't think it has anything to actually do with us trying to have a conversation. I think it may just be TikTok itself. This evening is not working well. And hopefully Christy comes back. I'll send her an invite here back to the stream. And yeah, we'll see what's going on, boys and girls. I appreciate you all coming back and being a part of this for the third time, trying to figure out what's going on. And yeah, little frustrating, but that's okay. That's what it is. Technology never works smoothly. And it is what it is. Perhaps if we weren't working on the whims of the app that we are, then we wouldn't be in the situation. But like Jimmy says there in the comments, third time's a charm. Let's get back to it, and let's keep the conversation going. Freezing up now still. I'm freezing. Like, I'm freezing up. If I'm freezing up, I may just take my video off, but this is, boys, this is gonna be the charm. Third time's a charm. This is it, boys and girls. We're gonna have it. We're gonna have the conversation. Like, we literally just started off with the description of where she's coming from. We're gonna get into a good old conversation. I got a lot written down here. As you can see, my thoughts are in a mix of crazy... Oh, you can't really see it. Crazy jumbled mess. Yeah, you can't see it. That's okay. It's a crazy jumbled mess, but there are lots of topics on that board. I'm here for the conversation. I appreciate you guys showing back up for the third time, though. I really do, because this is what it's all about, guys. Having these conversations. So let's make sure it happens. Let's make sure it happens here tonight. Christy, where you at? I think Christy may have gone live herself. It was a bad bad thing to say. Anybody out there in the chat, go and check. Go see if Chrissy is live. Tell her to come over in here and hop into the stream, and we'll keep it going. Hopefully everything's fine. I reset the app, and yeah, share to Christy. I already did. So you need to go over there. You need to actually go, because you can't get DMs while you're in a live stream. So, paid Jimmy $29.99 for a ticket to this event, so it better be worth it. That's right. Jimmy's out there promoting the event one hand, one at a time, getting out there, getting the prices of the tickets out to the people. If you're going to charge $29.99, then you know it must be only worth $15.99. Somebody's going to get an extra $15 out of you. It's the grift. That's what happens. You take the money where it comes. You take it out of the hands of the poor. The opposite of Robin Hood. I'm just kidding. This event didn't cost anything. Pay-per-view with Todd, yeah. Pay-per-view, it costs $10, but if you want to resell tickets, it's $29.99. If you can get it out to anybody, if you're able to. There she is. There's Christy. Back into the event. She's coming. Let's go. Let's get this happening. Come onto the screen. Look at that.
Can you see me?
You're back. We can finally see you. That's amazing. Third time the charm. Let's actually get this going. That's sick.
All right.
Thank you, everybody that stuck around. And thank you, Christy, for trying so hard to get back into the conversation. This is awesome.
I was trying everything. I turned my phone off and on. I came up to my kitchen.
No, well, I appreciate it. No, I have no idea what's going on or what happened, but you gave the perfect description of where you're coming from, how your content is, why you got into TikTok itself. Started off everything very smoothly, and then all of a sudden, gone. Nowhere to be found. I appreciate you being here and coming back.
Thank you.
Just to recap, to get back into the mindset of where we were at. Is there anything else that you would like to say or add on to your description around, like, you came into TikTok because you had never heard of the convoy, but it had been brought up to you, and then you saw people on TikTok talking about it, so you figured that's a place to learn and discover, and you found yourself in a disagreement to what you saw. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that, or is that an accurate description around how you started
Sort of.
and what your content's about?
I didn't find the people on TikTok that I disagreed about. I found it from looking into Canada Unity, and that's why I was disagreeing with it. But as I found people on TikTok who were convoy supporters, it really, I still disagree with it, but I have a way better understanding for the people who supported it and why. And I'm super grateful for that. And I've learned, like, I could spend this entire life just talking about what I've learned, not just about convoy, but about the way that people I disagree with think. I've learned a lot about gun control laws. I've learned about how conservatives think. And I've had fantastic conversations. And I'm very happy that people are willing to talk to me because I want to learn. I want to understand why we disagree so badly, strongly. That's a better word. And I have to
That's
say,
very well put.
I've made some fantastic friends on here. I really, really have. And I've already met one in person. We went out for a wine out here. I would love to meet everybody that I'm friends with on here one day. I really value the conversations that we have over video comments and over DMs.
Right?
You're one of them.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. I wouldn't mind getting together and having a real one-on-one conversation in IRL and at any time.
IRL.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So there
And
are two
Becca too.
things.
Absolutely, because of Becca.
Yeah, yeah. Becca's an individual that I'd like to have on here. I asked her to come on yesterday, but she said she was too busy, and so perhaps next week, early on, or in the evening of, or sorry, not early on in the week, or later on in the week, not in the evening of the week. Doesn't make sense. Sorry. Um,
All good.
but yeah, no, there are a lot of individuals that you find connections with on the internet for sure. That is definitely a large part of what a lot of people are doing here on TikTok. And so I guess I could ask you that. While being here, you just said that you've met a lot of people and you've made a lot of connections. Is that something that drives you to continue making not only content, but being here on TikTok? Do you find yourself, let me summarize this and not ramble on so much. Do you find yourself falling into a community on TikTok? Or are you
Yeah,
here for
absolutely.
some other reason?
No, community, 100% community. I look forward to seeing my friends every day on here. And I consider them when I'm making my content, I consider who's going to be watching it. And I appreciate anticipating the kind of comments I'm going to get from both people who agree with me and who don't agree with me. Like I said, I've learned so much. And if you were to say, have you learned more from people you disagree with or agree with? It's like a 50-50. And every day I'm getting something new out of it. And every day I'm getting a new appreciation for all of you guys. And that's why I keep coming back every day. It's not about putting the stuff out. It's about getting the feedback when I put it out and learning from it.
Hmm. And that seems to be a super healthy way to look at things. So you're not making content necessarily in order to persuade someone into believing what you believe. You are out there trying to figure out the belief system that you hold and either reaffirm it or dismantle it for yourself.
Yep. Yeah, that's accurate. And a little bit of trying to sway other people. And when I learn more about why they disagree, I can sharpen my argument.
Oh, there's a difference, right? You want to sway some individuals into believing what you believe, but if they present you with opposing factual evidence, you are willing to look at that and counter it with your belief system and admit that perhaps your belief may be wrong.
Absolutely. Like when I did the video about the gun control bill, before that, if you would have asked me any day of my life, yes or no, it would have been a strong no right away and like immediate. And from that video, that was probably my favorite one for feedback because I had people tagging me in other videos, and I had strangers, like new followers that I got that said, "Hey, look at how I live." And I said from the beginning, my favorite part of talking with people who are so different, like I live in a city. I'm in a concrete jungle around here. I have no idea what it's like to live in a small town or in the prairies or even I'm not even in like the suburbs really. And so when you get to learn more about how different areas of the country live, it makes sense why we disagree about something like the gun control bill. And the arguments that were presented to me were fantastic. Like I said, guys were making me whole videos, and it was stuff that I would never consider having lived the way that I've lived my whole life.
Yeah, just not something that had ever crossed your mind.
Yeah, at all.
And that's something that I recognize within your content, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have the conversation, because it's evident that you are willing to not only view evidence and information, but reflect on the way that that has impacted your life or has not impacted your life. And so a lot of people
Yeah,
can't really take the step back and be like, okay, so I've never experienced this. And so therefore, I understand how this could impact somebody differently. They would just say, I've never experienced this. Therefore, I cannot understand your experience. And that's
yeah.
a big thing. That's a very big thing. And it really does reflect in your content. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that it's easier to remain in our own little bubbles, and it's more comfortable too, right, to stick with what you know. And if you look at how people usually form friends, it's usually like that too. It's usually with like-minded people or people with similar experiences. And when you get to learn about other people, it's just you grow so much more.
Mhm.
One of my favorite things before TikTok was having conversations with people who grew up differently than I did in other countries and stuff, and learning about what it's like to grow up outside of Canada. And when I first joined TikTok, before I even found all of the political community, I was describing it to my friend. I said, TikTok's like if the whole world lived in one apartment building and all of their windows were open, and you can look into all these different lives that are so different than your own and learn from them for what people are willing to share. But then I found you
Mhm.
guys, and then the whole rest of TikTok, like I don't even get the dancing ones anymore. I just get you guys,
Yeah,
which is
quite often. Yeah, it depends on what you're looking at and like what you're looking into, right? It's
yeah.
the algorithm is the algorithm, it really does tailor to very specifically. So every single day I will come on to TikTok and there will be one or two international stories that if I follow or if I like, I will get over and over again, and it will be inundate. I will be inundated with this information, and it goes the same way when I get into looking up TikTok drama. So I don't really want to get into this too much, but either way, the algorithm it really pushes you into a certain direction. I guess how I could frame this or change the framing of what's happening here, I could pose the question to you: What is your thoughts? What are your thoughts around the TikTok algorithm and how it has filtered content towards your specific needs or wants on this app?
I think it first of all, I think the algorithm really celebrates aggressive videos, which I think is kind of gross. The more assertive you are, or like the harder you are on somebody, and if you're being very aggressive, that video is going to get a lot of views, and that's partly because of the algorithm. But the algorithm is a reflection on how many people are sharing and saving and liking and stuff. And I think that the algorithm is a reflection on how much people like aggression. I think a lot of people in real life and on TikTok appreciate it when somebody else is being aggressive. A lot of people like to get behind that and see a fight. Um, for me, I try to affect my algorithm when there's something I don't like. I make sure to right away to swipe away so that I don't get that again. I think that's why I didn't get the dancing stuff for a while too, because I was like, no, that you're not politics, and I just kept swiping. But then there'll be other people like Butters never shows up on my FYP ever. And I know he makes content, and I don't know why. We follow each other, we interact with each other. I interact with Butters every single day. So there's no reason he shouldn't be. So I'll for sure, like, I'll go and look at his content and make sure to comment on it and like it and stuff to try to get him on my FYP. But I think TikTok's trying to keep us apart. I also have some other ladies on my follower list too that I know they make content. They don't come on my FYP, so I make sure to go to their page, and I'm trying to get the algorithm to push the stuff my way, and they aren't. I get ads all the time for this hair stuff, so I block those people because that's not why I'm here.
Hmm.
I'll let you know if I'm
Yeah, you know.
so far. But I've been trying, like seriously, I've been trying to get Butters on my FYP for probably like 2 weeks, and it's just not working.
Mhm.
And then I'll look for that too. Like if I see somebody on my FYP that I see often, and then I don't see them, I'm suspicious of the algorithm right away. And then I'll go to make sure, are they just not making videos right now?
I was gonna say, I think that that has more to do with Butters, not you, because he doesn't show up in my FYP either, and it's nothing negative about Butters. I think that it's just I have no idea. It's like maybe the
But
algorithm knows that his content is too overt because he streams quite a bit, and when he streams, it's a little bit different than his content, um, and so maybe the algorithm, because the algorithm's smart, right? It knows a little bit. It's like maybe he's like, "Who are you? What are you trying to do? I'm not going to push out your content," but his content's nothing like what he usually. I don't know. His content's pretty mundane, relaxed, chilled out. He's a pretty good guy from what I know of Butters. My own
yeah,
perspective so far.
I think that's a good angle. I think that might be it because his content is a lot different than how he streams.
Hmm. But he streams quite often, and so that's why they would put the two and two together. Um, I want to stick with the convoy for a minute because that is a large part of your content. And while reviewing your videos, I did notice that you do stick with that quite a bit. And there are certain individuals who delve into different aspects where it's like they're really hard into Pierre Polyev, or they're really hard into Justin Trudeau, or they're really hard into the PPC, like weird different like governmental aspects, or there are different things when it comes to all these conspiracies and different aspects around that, where we can move into that later on. But in your content, you went into it right away. So your intro was like the first question in the whole discussion around the convoy that I would have had. So it's like you answered a lot of the questions within that. The idea of like, how did you first hear about it? What were you doing when the convoy started? You didn't. We haven't talked about that yet, but a question that I would have for you though is what are the disagreements that you found when you first discovered the convoy, and what are your disagreements now? Are they the same, and how do they compare with each other? And by the way, I'm going to flip
Um,
my camera, but I'm still right here with you. I'm not going anywhere.
so my disagreement when I first came across it was because I looked into the leaders, and I found James Bowder and Pat King, and you know how that went. And when I looked at the social medias of the people that were attached to it, I found the racist messages, and I didn't like that at all. And I've mentioned that a lot on most of my videos, especially at the beginning. I would talk about how I didn't like the racist messages on the leaders' social media pages before the world started looking at them. And I got a lot of feedback about how, like, don't paint us all with the same brush. We're all not like that. And that's my biggest takeaway from learning from convoy people is why they joined too. So now my biggest criticism of them, I saw that Lisa Marie Presley died. Anyways, my biggest criticism now is how they were sort of led to believe different things about it. I think that if you're going to have a protest that big, you should have had everybody on the same page, and everybody wasn't on the same page. And I don't like scammers. And I don't believe that the supporters are the scammers. I believe that the people behind the initiation had different ideas, which I don't like. And I hear a lot from convoy people about how much they valued their experience there. And I think that that is the most important part, because I think the way it started was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the vaccinated people weren't really good to the unvaccinated people. And I'm totally guilty of that with unvaccinated people in my real life. I didn't have a lot of patience in the conversations. I would hear something that I didn't believe, that I thought was bullshit, and I would shut it down right away. And I didn't listen. And the biggest thing I got from listening to convoy people is shut up and listen. Even if you disagree with them, even if you think that they're listening to or believing something that you don't believe to be true, listen to it anyways, instead of just shutting it down. And so I think that the vaccinated society wasn't good to the unvaccinated society. And we saw a lot of videos about how people were cleaning out their friends list or not talking to family members anymore. And I think there was this feeling of the unvaccinated people feeling sort of discarded by people like us, and they found each other. And I think that is super valuable to them. I've even heard people say, like, the convoy saved my life. And that makes me feel horrible for the way that I had treated some of my friends for, like, the not listening and stuff. And I am better about it now. But we had to, some of my friends and I had to have, okay, we're not allowed to talk about this, save the friendship. We're just not going to talk about it. And now we're able to talk about it a lot more. And honestly, I have all of the people on TikTok who taught me about their point of view to thank for that, because I think it's also easier to have patience with strangers than it is to have with your own family and your friends. You have this tolerance. I have a tolerance for strangers that my friends didn't get from me before, but they do now. I'm better now. But I really, really thank everybody who is a convoy supporter for teaching me that. Super grateful. And
Yeah.
it wouldn't happen if
No, very good, very good, very good, Doc. Very good description around the way that you have developed over the past year or two, and the way that you've reflected on your own actions and seen how they had affected other individuals. And this is going back to the reason as to why I think a lot of people do resonate to the content that you make, because it's not just you disagree with the convoy. This is why we're here to discuss it right now. You disagree with the convoy for specific reasons, and also can reflect on the fact that you're not completely correct around everything that you had believed about what these people are trying to achieve or were trying to achieve in their actions. And a lot of people don't and haven't given these people that grace, hence why they've become so adversarial. And that's literally what you just described. The entire
yeah,
reason why they're so upset. And so, good reflection, and I appreciate that. I really do appreciate hearing that from somebody who has reflected on that situation. I think you have it spot on.
thanks. And I, no, sorry.
Oh,
I'm
good.
good.
You can. You okay? If you don't want to say it, you don't have to. I have another question about the convoy. What were you doing before the convoy happened?
Well, I was working. And when I was working long hours, and I don't work anymore. And I'm not a liberal who just lives off the government. I live off the money that I made when I was working. But I'm semi-retired now. So I have a lot more time to be on here and to look into stuff. But uh, before that, I was working, and I stopped working in late 2020. And then for the year before that, and when the convoy started, or sorry, right before the convoy started, I was in school. I was taking courses because I'm going to start a freelance business in my retirement.
Hmm. And how did you find the pandemic itself? I guess because the convoy came at the end of the pandemic, and so I would be saying like, what were you doing before that? It would be the description of throughout the pandemic and before, and I think that's what you were just describing. How did the pandemic affect your goals towards the future and how you decided to move forward in life?
Um, well, my plan, because I was planning to leave work, and my first plan was what I was going to do is, because I love traveling, I was going to get a one-way ticket to Europe and rent a car and just rent Airbnbs, and I was going to be there for 4 months and then come home, which my husband wasn't really a fan of, but I'm like, it's only 16 weekends, you'll be fine. But that didn't happen because I stopped working like right in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm like, well, this sucks. So then I just sort of dove into school, and I took an extra set of courses that I wasn't planning to take. And I loved school. I didn't think I was going to, but I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm wrapping up now, and I'm going to just start to build my business now. But I picked a business that I can do like on the road so that I can keep traveling. I love traveling.
Mhm. That's
Do you
good.
travel?
That's nice. Do I travel? I have a love-hate relationship with travel. I enjoy it, and I don't know. It is what it is. I do enjoy it while I'm doing it. While I'm not doing it, I'm like, I don't want to do it. The moment I get out there, I'm like, yeah, this is great. But like, I'm a weirdo like that. I want to stay home. I want to relax. I'm a homebody. I want to just like chill out and be in my comfort zone for sure. I do have to ask you this question though, because people are upset in the comments. They're not upset. They're just
Oh,
asking the question, right?
okay.
And that's the problem. That's always the issue. When I say someone is upset, that means that like they're adamantly, clearly have a position in which they're coming from, and they are looking for an answer. And so you don't have to answer any specific way, but they clearly
All
do
right.
want you to answer a specific way. And I'm going to just ask you the question: do you
Sure.
believe that we are still currently in the middle or within a pandemic, or has it finished? Is it over? Is it endemic?
I think we're in the endemic, but I still think that the risk is real. And I think that we're in the endemic, but I think that there, I still think that the virus is out there. It's still posing a risk. Um, it scares me if mandates come back because, and I hope not, but I said endemic. Feel free to correct me. That's just what I think. But I think that if mandates come back after the hope was okay, they're gone now. I think that's going to I think that's going to be a big hit to society and how they take it, and that's what I'm worried about. So I'm worried about two things, and it's sort of a balanced worry. I'm worried about the virus, while at the same time I'm worried about how the measures to control it affect society. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah,
is that
so
a
if I
non?
could, if, no, no, that's exactly the best answer. So I could ask you, like, in response, a question like, I don't want to get into the idea of like Convoy 2.0 right now about the actual, like, what's happening within Winnipeg and all that sort of thing. But what you're describing right now is the fear of an actual Convoy 2.0, because the situation that you're describing are the same situations that started the initial in my opinion, this can be taken different ways, but in my opinion, the initial spark that drove this massive protest that happened, who cares about the outcome or what ended up happening with the leadership and all that sort of thing? How did that start and what could make that happen again? Right now, in my opinion, it's not happening. But what you're describing is a situation that could spark another situation where there are millions of people that now realize something or believe something that they didn't believe previously, don't know what to do with those emotions, and then put those emotions into some context that's being taken over by individuals who are like, yep, I see your anger. I can use that in a way because I like
Yeah,
to manipulate human beings and this is my life. So, if that makes
I
sense.
know, I agree with you. And I don't know what's concerning me more. Um, the fact that we may need them and not be able to put them in because of the reaction from society, or putting them in and facing the reaction from society. I think, like, I'm 50-50 with my concerns. I'm equally as concerned about both the reaction and the if we don't do it, but we need to.
So this is something that I had posed a question to probably 6 months ago or so on a live stream, and I think I only left it up for 1 or 2 days, but it is something that I do wonder. And so, what would it take for you to recognize that the government had gone too far and stand up to say this is enough is enough and I will not take any more?
It would take a lot. I was critical of the mandate. Like, the mandates, like, I couldn't go to the gym, but I could go to the poker room. That's ridiculous. It is. There's a greater risk at the poker room than in the gym. But anyways, I think that my biggest criticism for people who were against the mandates were some of the stuff that they believe I don't believe in. I don't believe that this was manufactured by Justin. I don't think he's that smart. I don't think that, like, I don't think it was a pandemic. I don't think that the vaccines are harmful. And a lot of people who were against the mandates and for the convoy believed that. So I would have a hard time going against the government based on those beliefs because I don't share those beliefs. I do have criticisms about the mandates, but if the people in the hospital said we need this, I would support it, but I would be very concerned about what's going to happen to society because it's almost worse. So before, when they got everybody because everybody was at the peak of being angry and frustrated and we're like fucking done with this, right? We don't want any more of this. And so all of the anger was able to get sort of corralled and put into a protest. And I think it's a different mindset this time because everybody's less angry, but they have their hopes up. And when their hopes are way up of hey, this is over. I don't think it's over, but it's over and we're not going to have any mandates. And if they were to come back, I think it's going to be a harder fall than it was the first time. And that's what I'm concerned about. And that's what I was concerned about with the convoy too. For the people who were supporting it, I I didn't believe that they were going to be successful, but I saw a lot of people pouring a ton of hope into, and for a lot of people, it felt like that was their only hope. Their only hope was, we need this win really badly. We need the government to fold. I didn't think that they were going to. And I was worried of what was going to happen when people didn't get the win that they needed. And money too. I had conversations with people pouring a ton of money in there. And I think that, and I talked about money a lot in my videos of, return on investment and stuff. And I think I was worried that there was going to be a hard crash if people didn't get their own way and they had poured all this hope and money into it. More so the hope than the money, but I didn't want the hard crash.
Mm-hmm. Which is which is reasonable, especially when the first time that you actually encountered people that were involved with this convoy was from TikTok. And so it was in a
Yeah.
social media outlet that introduced you to what was going on. And so a question that I will ask is, since you're a reasonable person, I know that we don't, we all have different perspectives when we look at like numbers and large crowds and things like that. And we all have different ideas of what a large crowd is and the number that we would put on it. But from all of the media that you had seen throughout the, let's say, 3 weeks leading up to the convoy, like the occupation, we will call
Mhm.
it, in Ottawa, and then the 3 weeks throughout Ottawa. So a full month and a half, right? Out of every person over on the overpasses all throughout Canada, how many people do you think were involved in those, not just the occupation, but in the convoy, helping out, coming out to support in each and every town, just going into an overpass, doing your own little protest, just all these things? What, in your perspective, how many people do you think in Canada were involved with this?
I didn't know there was going to be math. Uh,
It's just an
I
estimate. I'm just
yeah.
looking at everybody, all the crazy old, like, it's no, you don't have to be accurate. It's just, what did it look like? The idea.
All right. I'm going to say more than 10,000, less than 100,000. That's my range.
It's okay. I'm just wondering.
Maybe,
I'm just wondering what your perspective is. Sorry?
yeah. Um, maybe I don't think more than 100,000, but I think it could have been up to there. Yeah.
And this is everybody like on overpasses that
Yeah.
stopped in like and had like coast to coast, yeah, like coast to coast, like less than 100,000. You think?
Yeah. I think.
Okay.
Um, that was another thing that bothered me about the convoy messaging too, was the hyperbole. And I mentioned that in one of my first videos about the how they kept saying, 50,000 trucks were coming. And then when they were called out on it, they said, well, that's just good marketing. And I'm like, you shouldn't market to people, especially people who have their hopes way up. And I understand why,
When they
because
said they, I'm not trying to cut you off. When you said they, like, when you asked them, who are them? Like who were like the? I know that I'm just like
so
springing a new question on you, but like who were the convoy leaders, or like whenever like people were looking at stuff like that, it was like, oh, we asked them, and it was like they responded, and they said this. It was like, who said that it was good marketing? Who was the one that
Theo
did that?
Fleury,
Who? Sorry,
Theo Fleury did. And
Theo
Brian,
Fleury.
I saw your comment. I sticking with my number.
Theo Fleury.
Yeah. I
Feel
mentioned that in
like
like one of my very
feel
first
like
videos.
feels like feel flurry.
Theo Fleury,
Oh,
the hockey.
Theo Fleury.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, who? I was like, who the
Not
fuck?
Theo.
This is what I find so funny about this sort of thing, right? Like with the convoy. And this is why I like having these conversations with different people that have had different experiences. There are so many people that I've heard out there being like, this person, and you guys believe. I'm like, who is who? Who is
I
that? Like,
I I have been guilty of that. I've said, you guys, and I've tried to, and this is something I've talked about before. I've tried to tailor my language so that my message is more receivable. I've stopped saying, I've tried to stop saying you guys and trying to make it a little bit more specific about who I'm talking about, because I've been accused so much of painting everybody with the same brush, and that's not what I want to do. Especially now that I've learned more about everybody who was part of it. I've stopped using conspiracy theories because I know that as soon as I talk about that, people shut their ears off. Um, and there's a few other words that I'm trying to find a different way to send the message. But I do know that there's a few trigger words that make people stop listening. And my whole thing is I want to keep talking to people and I want people to keep listening to me. So if you catch me doing a you guys, Call me out.
You're very aware of that sort of thing, and like you said, when you say conspiracy theorist, it turns people off. But if you start talking about conspiracy theories, it turns a different group of people off. So you need to figure out a way to like work around that if you want to talk about anything, right? In
Yeah.
that subject. But I want to actually do this, okay?
Okay.
We've talked with a convoy, and we obviously have different opinions, and we're having a good conversation about it, and obviously we can come back to any sort of like conversation or discussion that anybody has in the comments and stuff like that. At the end of the stream, I'm going to pose the question to anybody that has questions to bring them up and ask away. But I'd like to move to another topic
Okay.
because I just like to keep it going, right? And I think that
Oh,
there's lots that we can discuss. Yeah. And so one thing that I think that would be interesting to have a discussion with you about would be that I did see within your content as well. Women's rights and feminism. So, the first question that I will ask is: are you a feminist, and what do you think about modern day feminism?
I am a feminist, and I think that modern day feminism is hurt by feminists who go too hard. Feminists who go too hard give a perception of, I feel that they give a perception that women want more power, whereas I'm fighting just to have equal power, to have everybody be regarded in the same way. I don't believe in the whole Jordan Peterson man has a certain role and woman has a certain role. I think that you're dismissing half the population's potential when you do that. Um, I worked in a job where I was the only woman for many years, and in meetings and stuff, it was just me and all the dudes. I was the only hen in the rooster house, and I have a lot of perspective of how men view women in business in that way, because I was one of them. And I swear to you, sometimes they forgot I was a woman when they were talking about women, and I'd be like, "You guys, like, you're talking about me," and they're like, "Well, not you. You're different." But they are talking about me because I am a woman. And I would like for everybody to just look at each other on an even playing field and look at the individual instead of what a woman should be or what a man should be.
Okay, give me this. Great. That was great. That was a really good perspective. I do agree with what you're saying. And it made me wonder and question though. So like how do you feel then? I guess like with those men saying that to you, this is not how you are. This is like a different perspective. When you think of men, these are two men, but are they on the same level in your mind for this type of thing to be discussed? Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, back with Conan the Destroyer days, first movie, right? Arnold Prime and Pee Wee Herman Prime, both in their prime, before the
Ah,
allegations or whatever. Before,
yeah.
regardless, just like
When you
but
see me
before,
the
just like
first,
both people, they're completely different guys. They're both men around the same age, so different, but both very successful. Different
yeah,
appeal, different like the way that you look at them and the way you talk about them. Like is it only negative because we have a different societal standard between men and women, or is it okay for both,
I think it's
or is
okay
neither?
for, um, because I think look at the individual man, and his character, not just skinny nerdy versus big buff rah, 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 guy. You know what I mean? For me, it's about what they're talking about.
The
You know what I mean?
perspective,
But remember the on
yeah,
show
I kind of gave bad examples. They're both kind of
you
like
gave.
they're like both airheads, but you look at them differently.
Yeah, but I think of the Tim Allen thing, a lot of times when I'll peek in on other people's lives and they're talking about that, And some guys, I want to go in there and do the Tim Allen thing, because that's what I hear when I hear the opinions of, no, men have to be the strong breadwinners and women have to be at home in the kitchen. I think that's antiquated. I think that is there's a big push for that from a lot of people. And I think it's a bigger push to get things into a comfort zone of what we were used to, instead of adapting to a new way of living or just a new way of relating to each other. I think that a lot of people, I think people are afraid of change in general. And right now, the world is changing at a pace that's faster than I think other generations have been through. That's what it feels like, or maybe it's just because we're living it. But I think that technology is really pushing everything a lot faster than what we're used to, which helps with the messaging too. Even if you think about social media, and it pushes the changes a lot faster than we're used to, which is scary for most people.
Hmm. No, I completely agree. I think the idea of exponential change in society is inevitable and it's happening. And for us who have lived through these slower changes, because we've all been here before in a time where the internet wasn't here, the internet came. The internet was like slow and shitty, and you literally would upload a picture. If I wanted to upload this, it would be like, and
Yeah,
now we're like, if you don't give me this now, I am not going to even do it. I'm throwing my phone away. I'm gone. I'm doing something else. And so
it,
we've
it's
lived
true.
through this, and yeah, we've lived through these changes, right? I want to ask you this. This does relate to the next question here within the same topic, but like, what are your thoughts on feminism, not only for yourself, but feminism itself in 2023? Um, and how does it relate to the feminism that you grew up on, or when you started following this ideology? Has it changed at all, or is it the same? What are your thoughts on feminism in 2023?
I think it's harder. I do. It feels like there is a harder pushback now than there was when I was growing up. It felt like when I was growing up, in the 80s and 90s, it felt like society was more accepting of it, and that we were going to get there to a place where, like, it's ridiculous in 2023 that a woman doing the same job as a man doesn't get paid the same. It's ridiculous, I think, because if I were to take a time machine and ask Christi in the 80s or 90s, where are we going to be in 2023? I'd say we'd already be here, because it felt like that is the way that it was going. And it feels like in the last maybe 7 or 8 years, there's been a lot of people going, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to go back to the 50s. And it feels like there's a harder push for the 50s than for the future that I had imagined when I saw the changes when I was growing up.
I think that was very well spoken. I appreciate that perspective. And I definitely do see where you're coming from. I definitely do see the perspective and how things have more of a pushback in today's society. I think there are a number of factors that lead into the reasons as to why there's a pushback on the feminist perspective in 2023. And I wonder if you have any perspective around how things have changed within the feminist movement from when you first started following it to now, as to what would lead up to individuals perhaps having an adverse reaction when they hear the word feminism.
I think, well, when I said that, what I think hurts it is when some people push too hard. And I think that there needs to be a hard push. But when there is, you can still push hard and get your message across without sending the wrong message. When we think about, like, when the pendulum goes, right? So it feels like they want to push it a bit too far, and I want it to just stay in the middle. which isn't realistic. That's not how it goes. But that's what I think happens. I think when they push it too much, it feels like it's going to go way too much the other way, which isn't comfortable. And I think that push happens because the push back is so much stronger. I think it's a reaction.
And so, with a lot of these situations, do you think that the left creates, I don't want to say the problem, they create the situation, regardless if it's a if it well, just let me explain, right? Regardless
Yeah,
if it's perceived as a problem or a solution, or they create the new thing. Like the left creates and the right reacts to the creation. The right very rarely says, I have an idea and this is what I want to do, and I'm going to push my idea into the world. They often say, no, I disagree with this idea that you are pushing into the world. Is that
yeah.
accurate in your opinion or not?
I think it is, because I think that the left is trying to bring society into the future, and the right says, no, I'm not ready for that. And again, I think that the biggest pushback because the the pace of change is too quick now. So I think it's sort of reactionary of we're not ready for there, and then people on the left are more progressive to say, "Come on, what are you guys waiting for?
We're like
Been there
five
already."
steps ahead. What do you mean? We've already passed that. You're still talking
Yeah,
about that stuff because we're already here. And that's where it leads to issues and problems because you are smart enough to realize that not everybody is there. Not everybody is able to be like, okay, there's many deep things that we could talk about, but I don't want to get into anything like too hard. But it's like the idea is this, okay? And people on the right always say this about the left, the idea of take an inch or give an inch, take a mile, right? But what does that really mean? Or like, how does that play out in a political sphere? And so if you want something and you want something to be done, you're not going to come up to me and say, listen, I want a full pepperoni pizza. I have one. I have a pepperoni pizza right on my lap here. I want that entire pizza. You're gonna come up to me and be like, "Hey, man, do you mind if I just have a slice of that pizza?" I'm like, "That's
yeah,
cool. Yeah, I know. I don't mind giving you a slice of pizza, man. That's cool." You're gonna come up to me and be like, "Yo, buddy, I know like there's two guys over there. They've been super hungry for like 3 days. I would talk to them. They didn't have any money to get food. Can I just have three slices? I'm gonna go give it to them. You give me the slices. I eat the fucking slice. I'm getting it. At the end, I get the whole pizza based off
yeah.
of." And this is a weird analogy, but like I know that you understand what I'm saying, and hopefully
I
anybody out there that's listening understands where I'm coming from. I don't sound crazy.
no, I totally, and I think that the fear of giving an inch and having to give up a mile is totally valid. I think that there is such a, I think there is a big divide, between the right and the left in general, and there is this. I don't want them to win, because if they're winning, then it means that I'm losing, and nobody wants to lose, and everybody's fighting for their win instead of trying to find a way to work with each other. I think a lot of that is because the disagreements are pretty strong, some of them, but if we found other concessions to make, if we found other ways to be able to agree with each other, I think it would be easier to be able to agree with the stronger stuff down the road. Hopefully, or maybe I'm just naive, but that's what I think, and I hope.
No, I think that you're spot on. I think that you are conducting your speech very well. Everybody in the comments seems to be loving your voice this evening, and I think that some people, like you said in your chat, I think some people did expect this to be like a blood sports thing where we're going to be having a back and forth and like arguments about different things, but that's not what this is about. This is about me. I want to hear from you. I want you to showcase your opinions. I definitely disagree with some of the things that you're saying. I think that you're showcasing yourself very well and expressing your opinions very well, and I don't this is what I have an issue with. I don't make content and I don't go looking for people that I disagree with. Me and like I need to make sure that everybody knows that I disagree with you. No, I can listen to you and disagree and also be like, yo, those are good points. I don't agree with all of them, but they help me understand where I do come from and why I do believe what I do believe. I don't need to counteract your point of view. I'm here to listen and learn from you, and I appreciate you speaking. So it's not it's there's no gotcha. There's not going to be any gotcha moments. There's no
No
I
fighting.
don't know. There's no blood sports. Yeah, it's not blood sports. That's not what I'm here to do, especially here in 2023 here, especially on this channel. The individuals who I personally actually dislike as people, I'm not going to interact with. I'm not going to give the time of day to. And the people that I do care about and want to hear from, I'm going to actively try to hear from. And that's why you are here and I'm learning and
See,
listening from you tonight. Moving
I like
forward. Oh,
I
sorry.
like
I'll
to
shut up.
it's okay. I like to let people know that I disagree with them, though. And I like to keep reminding them that I disagree because there's sometimes when I'll get a new follower and I'll build a new relationship and we get very friendly. And then I'm afraid that they're going to get blindsided by one of my points of views because we're friendly, and I'm really aware of that. So I'm always reminding people, hey, we still disagree, but we can still be friends. But I'm often reminding people that I disagree with them, especially when we're being friendly, because I don't want to give a false impression. You know what I mean? I don't want somebody to think, okay, we're cool now and I'm going to agree with you. And I don't know if that's what they're getting when we are being friendly. But if you're watching and you're somebody who disagrees, why I'm always reminding you guys that I disagree, because I don't want to put out content and then have somebody that I've built a relationship with be blindsided or be hurt with, like, oh, I can't believe she said that. I want them to kind of expect that I'm going to disagree, but know that we can still have a conversation about it. And I think that a lot of other people can't do that because they need the other person to admit that they're right. Which isn't actually my idea. I got that from Butters. He said that, we need the other person to have a concession. And there's a lot of people who I was going back and forth with People Watcher on a video, and she wanted me to concede, and I said I'm not going to. Like, I'm not going to. But I think that that is a very common thing to want with people who disagree. I want you guys to all agree with me too, but I don't expect it, and I don't have my hopes up for it, and I'm content with the conversation without you agreeing with me, if that makes sense. That was long-winded.
No, no, wasn't long-winded at all. It was very good. Another cheer there for you. Always good. Always good. Always good to hear from that perspective. I do agree. I definitely think that you really need to look into the way that we perceive each other. And a lot of people just want to be right. They want to find a group of individuals who agree with them. And it is something that is super super interesting because you already said here throughout the evening you're looking for a community, but does the community have to agree with everything that you believe? Because I have friends, like I'm not saying like no, I'm saying no offense to anybody. Like I've said this a few times, I'm not here on this app to make friends. I'm not here to like make friends, and that's okay. I know that a lot of people are here to make friends, and that's why I talk to people. Like, what is your goal? Like, are you here to make friends? Because if that's like what you're trying to do with me, I'm friends with some people on this app for sure. Like I said, I would go and meet up with you for coffee or stuff. But like, I don't like, and even you and I haven't talked much in like the DMs and stuff. But there are a few people that I do talk to, you know, and there's a difference between knowing somebody and knowing somebody through their content. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people gravitate towards a community of individuals that they think they know, and then when they say something that they disagree with, like, well, that blindsides them because they thought that they were in this place or in this safe spot. That is not true. You don't actually know anybody that you're, unless you discuss things with them on a personal basis. Then you
Yeah.
may know the person, but like you can't just. I don't know. I think that you understand what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for rambling.
No, perfect. And I agreed with every single word. And I think that's where, and I don't really want to talk about the drama because the drama is not really for me. but I think that's where a lot of it comes from. I think that when you agree about a bunch of stuff, as soon as you find something that you don't agree with, it can go sideways quickly.
Yeah, that's 100% what's going on. And but the question that I have is, do you need to agree with everything in order to like somebody's perspective, or agree, or to learn from somebody's perspective, I guess?
No, I don't. Um, and in real life too, I've always enjoyed talking with people who disagree with me or people that I disagree with, uh, because I like learning. If you only ever talk, and I say this so many times, if you only ever talk to people who are similar to you and people who agree with you, you never learn anything. You never grow. You're just the same person. And if I'm the same person at 50 that I was at 40 or 30, then I'm doing life wrong. That's
I mean, I don't think a lot of people have that perspective, but it seems pretty obvious. If you're the same person that you were at fucking at 50, you're the same person that you were at 30, then something's like you haven't grown. Like you don't, like, I don't know. You know what's up. You know what's going on. You know what's up with life. You realize that there is more that's going on than meets the eye, we could say. And I definitely do appreciate that sort of perspective here. Um, this does relate to what I have this topic here that I do want to talk to you about, and it does relate to what we're discussing here right now. Okay, and so it has to do with infighting with the left and the right, and you don't have to bring up any like arguments or personal stuff because I didn't even know that you were going through anything, or if you are going through anything. But one thing that I really do want to ask you is the question with infighting. It seems throughout, like from my perspective, in this niche area on TikTok in Canadian politics and some United States, but mostly Canadian, left, right, weird convoy versus anti-convoy TikTok situation. There's a lot of infighting, and I want to
yeah.
know from your perspective, do you believe that everybody is actually strong enough mentally to have the conversation? And should we censor ourselves and take some people out of the conversation in order to not have negative repercussions?
Oh, it's a fantastic question. It is. So I think in general, there's the way things should be and the way things really are. I think we should be able to talk about anything, but I think that the way things really are is that if we do that, it poses a risk, a real risk to people who are more affected. So I can talk about almost anything. I'm dripping with privilege, right? I'm not directly affected uh, by some of the stuff that we talk about. Like when we're talking about racism, I'm not affected by it. It's easier for me to talk about it. When we talk about the LGBTQ community, I'm not part of that community, so I can talk about it in a more pragmatic way because it doesn't affect me. I haven't been hurt. I don't have a lot of feelings attached. I have my opinions and I have, some feelings for, friends and family who are in that community, but it's different when you are the recipient of the kind of hate that we talk about. And so when we're talking about stuff, even if we're able to have the conversation without having hurt feelings, we have to be aware of who's listening, and they might, and some of the things that are said in these discussions could really affect somebody. um
I'm not saying that though. You can obviously anybody that's listening in can be hurt by whatever you say. That's on them. They're here. They can leave. I'm talking about like if I want to have a conversation with somebody, you and I are having a conversation tonight. If I did not think that you were mentally capable of having this conversation, should I not have the conversation with you? Or should, if you are going to be in this atmosphere, allow you to come in? Because there are so many people that we talk to on a day to day basis that many people do not believe are mentally capable of having the conversation or are a mental capacity that they are well in their perspective.
yeah.
Yet the conversations happen. And so, should we be able to have this conversation? Say there were five people in the boxes. Should I let you in if you requested to join? This is what I'm kind of asking.
If you thought that I wasn't mentally able to handle it, I think no. I think no, because I don't think that the risk is worth what you're going to be able to get in a conversation.
I
If you
feel
can
that. I
recognize it.
understand. I understand that, but like my perspective doesn't really matter. So like if you don't think so, like I'm right there. I feel what you're saying. If I don't think, or if you don't think, then it's up to me or you to like make that decision. But I'm just saying, like when we were watching a live stream, when we're seeing these live streams, do you believe that there are some individuals within this atmosphere that are not mentally capable or at the spot where they're mentally strong enough to be entering these conversations, but are entering these conversations? And should we be aware of that when we enter a conversation or interact with certain groups of people?
So, should we leave it up to them to stay in the conversation if they're not able to handle it? Or should we handle them with kid gloves because we're the ones recognizing that they can't handle it? I,
I love that your perspective is so much more like direct and harsh. I just didn't want to say, I'm not trying to say anything like direct because everybody calls me an asshole whenever I say anything, but you can say whatever you want. So it's like, yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm asking. It's like, should we fucking tailor ourselves to like, tiptoe around people's perspectives and opinions because they can't handle the conversation, or
okay, so let
leave
me
if you
ask,
can't handle it?
if this was real life and this was your real life social circle, would you handle it differently?
Yes. Yes, 100%. I would like you could not you would be either like well A, you would fucking stop hanging out with everybody, and if they were actually your friends they'd be like, yo, where'd you go? Why'd you leave us? What's going on? You'd be like, hey, you guys are dicks. I don't like you anymore. Leave me alone. And in the end, it has to come down to actually talking about it. If like
Yeah.
there's never a situation, I've always said this from the beginning. I saw a post, Facebook brings up past posts, and it was from like 2011 or something, and it was like the root cause of 90% of problems is miscommunication. So if you just told people what you thought and how you felt, you could end it right now. Fix it right now. You can fix it. You both probably feel the same way, especially when it comes to relationships and shit. It's like just be honest.
Oh
Just
yeah.
be like, I don't fucking like this. And they're like, I don't like that either. I thought we were just doing it so that, like to help each other. Like, no, we both hate it, and we're both like arguing all day because we don't fucking like it. It's in the same sense, right? It's all I don't know, rambling
There's,
again.
because we're on social media doing this a lot of the conversation is in text. So you're missing intonation, you're missing, tone of voice. And there's so often something you read could be that might not be the intention of, but you read it with what you assume the intention is. You think, if you get a comment, you're like, okay, this guy's being an asshole to me, and that's how you read it.
Says
Whereas,
more about ourselves than it does the other person.
yeah, yeah. So I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding that comes from that.
Um, Okay, so I have another question here with the infighting left and right because um, we do agree that there's infighting that happens. And one thing that I do have to ask you, regardless of whether it is on the left or the right, and you don't have to say this because this is kind of inflammatory a little bit, is there anybody that you genuinely just do not actually like on this app as a person or as like the character that they portray themselves as? And it's okay if you don't want to say that because it's a little bit.
Okay. No, there's only the only people I've ever actually blocked is like the ladies with the ads, because I don't want to see the ads. But there's one person that I've blocked, and it isn't because I don't like them. It's because I'm not able to engage with them in the comments without taking it personally. And I have no idea what it is about this person. Um, I don't even, it's a girl. And I blocked her quite a while ago because I was going back and forth, and I kind of pride myself on being able to have the conversation without taking it personally and staying, just pragmatic about it. But I wasn't able to do it with this one girl. And it's not her, it's me. And I don't know what it is. There's nothing about what she does that's different than anybody else. It's
I
just when
guess,
I
yeah.
engage with her, I can't do it. So I had to block her because I want to protect myself. And I don't want to I want to stay Bruce Banner. You know what I mean? I like that you guys get the Bruce Banner version of me. You know who I mean, right? Your comic book, the Hulk.
I know what you're saying. I know. I feel it. I know.
I get and and lose my temper, because if that happens, then a lot of the relationships that I've built aren't going to be the same if I lose it, and I was risking losing it with this person, so I had to block it.
I gotta stop you right there, Christy.
Sure.
So I've been doing these streams for more than the last year. I think like about a year and a half, a little bit more, because I had a different channel before this channel. And a lot of the people that there are a lot of people here that come in and come out because hasn't been built on a community of individuals who have a firm belief system. It's an anti-community, like I said in a stream before I started these lives. It's an anti-community, a group of individuals who all believe different things. The people that follow you because they enjoy what you have to say. And for you to express yourself in a negative way is not going to be received negatively by those who actually care about you as a person. So the more that you are real, like the amount of times that I've expressed myself negatively on these live streams and on this channel is incomprehensible. If I could go back and change it, I would. But I am who I am, and I've done the things I've done. I've said the things I have. We are who we are as people. Sometimes some individuals get under our skin, they get us upset, and that's what makes you real. Because for you to sit here and say all the things that you do say, if I don't know what actually gets under your skin and what makes you mad, then I don't fully know you. I only know the bane to your existence.
Not saying that I don't get mad. I'm saying that I don't lose my shit. There's a big difference. If I'm mad about something, you're going to know about it. If I'm not happy with something, you'll still know about it. And I'm not trying to hide who I am. It's just when the Hulk comes, it's really fucking bad. And I I genuinely don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And if the Hulk comes out, it's going to happen. I am not a good fighter like that. I am a fight to win the quickest way possible as soon as the Hulk gets released, and it's not pretty. There's enough people who know me. One of my greatest fears, actually, is that because I have such a reputation for people liking my approach and my style, one of my greatest fears is that somebody who has encountered the Hulk, and there are many, is going to be like, oh my God, this one, you got to watch out for that one. Because, like I said, when it happens, it's really, really, really bad. And I don't ever want that to happen here. Ever. I
If it
don't.
happens anywhere, hopefully it happens here because everybody in this chat and in this community would definitely agree and love you a little bit more for it because it just shows a reality that is the truth behind the veil. I don't think anybody would look at you negatively. It only would add to the credence in which you experience the world around you and we experience the world with you. But moving
Well,
forward, I'm going to ask you a question here about the content that you make, and is similar to what we're discussing, but within the atmosphere of TikTok itself, right? Because I don't want to see you get upset. I don't want to see you angry around any sort of situation. I don't want to see you clap back. And so when I asked you about the old, do you dislike people? Yeah, we all dislike somebody out there. I just wondered. I just wondered what was going on. But
But
with that,
I don't dislike anybody. And like I said, the person I blocked was more because of me. And like I said, if you want to see it one day, if it happens in a live, like it's it'll be entertaining anyways. But
see, this is the
it's bad.
problem as well. I'm going to say this. So, Fancy says Christy's cool as a cucumber. And yes, yes, you are. But if this is how your entire reputation is being built on TikTok, and you're not feeling as though you're able to express yourself in the full range of expressions that you do have, that is kind of an issue. At least I do have an issue with that. I'd like to see you be able to, if somebody makes you upset or something happens that makes you upset, to be able to express those range of emotions. And then with that, just as you've learned throughout your time on TikTok, with political opinions, expressing it's kind of like a therapy session, you know? You're going to rage out and people will be like, oh, that's kind of weird. And you'll have a self-reflection, be like, oh, that was kind of weird. How could I express myself better in the next time?
Yeah.
But you're still going to feel angry. So next time you're going to be angry. You're going to say things a little bit differently. And people will be like, yeah, you know what? Actually, you're right. Fuck this person. So,
I'm never gonna hold back. I'm angry about something. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm not. I'm never gonna do that. I'm not here to bullshit. I'm quite candid about what I believe and what I disagree with and what bothers me. So I'm never going to hide that something's bothering me. What I'm saying is that I I don't want to get to the point where I'm going to take a below the belt shot. It's a dick move. I'm going to do it if I lose my shit, and it's bad. Do you know Angry Canadian Beaver? She's very aggressive, right? I think
I
her
know
name.
the name. I can't put a face in the name, but I know the name. I've seen it around.
Yeah, she's very aggressive, and when I'm like that, it's like her on like 10 cups of coffee and a smack in the face. It's way worse than her. It's I'm being honest with you now. Um because it's bad. And that's what I don't want to do, because I don't want, and in real life too, it's not that I'm just trying to be less Hulk on TikTok. I'm trying to be less Hulk in real life too, because it's bad.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a good
It's just
perspective.
easier.
I'm going to ask you a question here. Are you okay with going a little bit past 11 because we got started a little late, or are you
It's only like here. I'm good.
okay? Okay. Cool. 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 I just wondered because it's getting close to the time, and I wanted to make sure that you were okay with going a little over because we
I
did
appreciate.
end up starting late here, and I didn't. Ah.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah, my book was holding up the phone. I was like, I didn't get to show
Oh,
this, and it messes up everything. There's like It's like so. I
it's
cannot show this book. The notes that I have down for you are so sporadic and so all over the place. It puts like a perspective into like how my mind works, but it's like,
that's how my
oh
mind
my
works too.
god. Yeah, maybe I'll flip the camera around later and show you before we're done. But I have a
I
whole
thought
bunch of stuff that I want to talk to you about still, so I'd love to continue the conversation for a little bit here.
I think there's a Jello fight happening
Oh
or
yeah,
being arranged. Fans fight me.
that
Hey
is
Scott,
a
behavior. No fighting.
yeah.
You promised.
All right. Don't worry about the comments. Don't worry about the comments too much. They always mess you up. They always fuck with you. So I'll look at them. I'll bring anything up that's relevant. But I got some stuff. I got lots of stuff to bring up to you. All right.
Right.
So we're talking about TikTok, the algorithm. Okay. So what I had to ask you is like another thing about your content itself. It seems to be very driven off of responses to content, or sorry, responses to comments in your uh, in your content. So like you'll make a video, people will say things, they'll respond, and you will respond to the individuals who are coming into the comments that are interacting with the content that you create. So I'd just like to hear your opinion around that because there are different ways that people make content, and that seems to be one that is a large like industry or like a way. But I don't make content like that. I don't really respond to many content or comments and respond to people that are in the comments with videos. But you seem to do that quite often. So I'm just wondering what your perspective is and like how that works and like why you do that and how just what's going on with it.
I do it because that's what inspires me. Like, I don't have a set idea of the kind of content that I want to make. I just make content as I'm inspired to. So when I'm going through my comments, when I see one that I know I'm going to want to, I add it to my favorites. And then when I'm like, okay, I'm going to go make a video today, I go through the comments and then I pick one of the ones that I have saved as a favorite and then I address it. But that's what inspires most of my content is, like I said, the feedback is my favorite part of doing this, and it's what inspires more content. I might, you should see my favorites list of as soon as I could figure out, somebody said something about adding, I knew you could add videos to the favorites, but I didn't know you could add comments. And then as soon as I did, that's all I do all the time. I just add to favorites because I don't want to forget about it. And it's what inspires me to put out what I do.
Hmm. That is, it's an interesting way to look at things, especially because we do very similar things, but I more so look at a grand scale idea, pose it to a community, and then see what people have to say. But I don't keep the conversation going like you do. Like you do keep the
Yeah.
conversation going quite a bit, and like you respond to individuals saying like, "Oh, they believe this," so you're going to because you have a perspective that you also would like to counter with. I just am looking for the raw. I don't care what you have to say. You can say whatever you want. I'm not trying to be like you are wrong.
So how do
Some
you
people
choose
have
it?
made me. How do I choose which?
How do you choose what you make content about?
So normally the content that I make are current pop culture or political hot topics, things that are in the atmosphere that continuously come into my uh, perspective, like things that I see, or things that I personally do have an ideology behind. And I'd love to hear what other people believe, but I try to leave my perspective out of how I make the content. And so there are a lot of videos that I've made that I have a very firm opinion of how I believe the outcome should be, I guess. But that's not how I frame the video. I just frame the video with a question to the individuals around how they believe because my perspective doesn't just because I have a perspective doesn't mean that it's true or it's right. You could give me another idea that helps me realize that what I'm thinking is not correct. But if I frame it in a certain way that makes you think about it in my perspective, that I'm going to get more responses that agree or are straight up just like, "Yep, you're right," or "I'm super wrong." I just want to know what you think so I can cross-reference my belief with your belief, if that
Mhm.
makes any sense. I
No, it does
tried
make
to
sense.
do that, and people really label my shit in one way or the other, but like I'm literally just trying to cross reference my belief with your belief because that's the only way I can know what's going on, at least from my perspective. I'm not right. I don't think I'm right. I never would think that. I don't think I'm right. I'm just one, I'm a cog in the wheel out there. I want to know what all the
I'm
other cogs are thinking.
I always think I'm right, but I do appreciate when somebody gets me to look at my opinion in a different way. And if somebody can make me change my mind, that'll stick with me for a long time because, as somebody had mentioned, I am kind of stubborn, and I really am. I am stubborn. So if somebody can move that, I'm impressed with them because it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, yeah. The idea that you're right, yeah, the right that you're right or you're wrong or you're just like firm in your belief. That's just I don't know. That's an admirable trait, I guess I could say. Um, it's a weird situation. It's a weird situation. I got a bunch of questions here for you. Let's move it forward.
All right.
Let's see what we got here. Um, let's go back to some sort of weird stuff. I don't know what was going on in your timeline today, but I saw a lot of stuff discussing the fact that this guy was saying that he was responsible for Confederate flags on the back of his truck at the Freedom Convoy. So the question that
Maurice.
I have, oh, you saw this, okay. So the question that I'm posing, right, the overarching question is, what are your
Okay.
thoughts around the Freedom Convoy's search for these racist flags and the new information that has come out recently and the way it's being portrayed? What have you seen? What are
Okay.
your thoughts? What's going on with you?
So I just found out today. So I made a video about Maurice last night. As soon as I found out about it, I was like, "Oh, good, we found it." Because I made a video last week, and people were still talking about, oh, once we find that guy, once we find that guy, and we're going to prove that he's a liberal plant. And this was as recently as last week. But I found out today that Rebel News actually ran an article on December 9th, and I don't know why nobody was talking about it. Where we've been talking about these flags at the convoy, and you've seen how many videos probably I've made about those flags. I'm not a fan of the flag. That's not new. I've made a lot of videos about it, and I found it very odd to discover that like 5 weeks ago, people who read Rebel News would have known that it was Maurice. And why wasn't anybody talking?
It's an interesting thing. This is what I find so funny. This is what I find interesting with the conversations that we have. So I will tell you from the opposite perspective. So I'm not even a convoy supporter. Like we can go on, we can have another stream where like we have like a back and forth where I give my perspective to every single question that I've asked you this evening. We can just go back and forth and like have a real I'm interviewing you,
Good.
but I will say I'll just give you a perspective because I know that you like to hear other perspectives, and I love to know where you're coming from with that. Where it's like okay,
Talk to me, Goose.
you know what? Do you know what gaslighting means?
Yep.
Can you give us a description of gaslighting, just so that everybody in the crowd knows what gaslighting is?
So gaslighting, I'll tell you where it started. It started with a man wanted to convince his wife that she was going crazy. So he would turn down the gas that powered the lights a little tiny bit every day.
Just a little bit.
Every day, yeah, just a little bit darker. And she's like, "Is it getting darker?" And he's like, "No, what are you talking about? I can see everything perfectly fine." And then they're in the dark, and she's like, "It's dark." And he's like, "No, you must be blind. I don't know what's going on with you." So that's where it came from. So yeah, gaslighting is letting somebody believe that they're going a bit cuckoo.
Not only letting somebody believe that they're going a little bit cuckoo, but ensuring that the information that they're receiving that should be correct is being corrupted. And so it's like that it's like a
So
lie. It's a lie with a certain intent.
yeah,
It's a lie with a certain intent is like the easiest way I can say this.
I
And
think I
so
think yeah.
the idea of like this whole situation, right, is that the convoy lawyer or whatever his name, I think the convoy lawyer said Brian Fox. I don't even a correspondent for CBC or Global News or some shit. Like I don't know who I don't know who Brian Fox is, and I don't know who what the name is of the convoy lawyer is. But these two dudes had some beef, and this dude blamed him and said that he was an individual holding a flag at the convoy. Um,
I'm
regardless
gonna
of even, I was going to say, regardless of
sorry
even that, I'm
sorry.
just
Go ahead.
saying, I'm just saying, the reason people have a point of contention with this situation is because the images that are being shown nobody was looking for this dude in the truck. Nobody. Okay, I understand that
That's
people on the left and that there are a lot of individuals in the center and left and all over Canada that have a problem with Confederate flags. But that was not the point of contention. That was not the people that was not the individual that people were looking for. This is another
it's
person that's just out there that had Confederate flags on his truck at the convoy. Cool.
Miller, the lawyer, had brought it up during the inquiry. He showed a picture of the truck and asked for that license plate to, he asked Rouleau, hey, who's on the other side of that license plate? That's why it's coming up. It isn't Brian
And they
Fox.
couldn't find that themselves before the fucking inquiry?
Pardon?
I was like, and they couldn't find that, like, they couldn't look that license plate up and find who that individual was before the inquiry? How incompetent are you? Like, that, what? Who? Who am I employing to
Or,
represent myself?
but
Yo,
here's
can
the
I
thing:
tell you something?
it's
Yo,
not
can I tell you
illegal
something
to.
real? Oh, sorry, go
Sorry,
on. No, go on.
it's not.
No, it's not.
So if even if they found him, like, what are they going to do? Unless he
Nothing.
was.
Nothing legally. Nothing legally. Um, For sure, they could dox him and all this stuff illegally. They could do all this sort of shit. But like, no, there's nothing that could actually happen, and that's weird to me. I didn't like. I'm not a fan. I don't know who Brian or whatever the
So
convoy. That's kind of funny
Miller,
that Brian Fox's name is more like synonymous with the
but
convoy
Brian Fox
than what Miller or something.
of being the he of carrying the Nazi flag.
I
The
know, but we don't
reason
know who
that
that
his
guy
name
is. Still, we just still don't know who that guy is.
is, hmm?
We still don't
Well,
know
we're
who
going to
that guy
find out because
is.
he Brian Fox, he works for Enterprise, and they're suing Miller for dropping his name because they're saying guy wasn't even in Ottawa. We were able to prove it with phone records and such. So we're going to find out when that goes to court for the defamation suit. But this other guy, Maurice, with the truck and the Confederate flags, had gone
No.
to Miller the inquiry and said, hey, that was me. So I asked Miller today, how come you haven't said anything?
He didn't say anything, but like, yeah, no, I feel all that. I feel all that. Like that's all fine.
So why do you think it's gaslighting? Think is gaslighting?
Oh,
I
what
have
do I
an
think
idea.
is gaslighting? Okay, that's where it comes back to. Okay, thank you. I was like trying to figure out like where are we coming back to? Like, it's like I understand, I agree with all this sort of thing. Um, it's gaslighting because this is not okay. The convoy itself as well. So like what is the convoy and what was the convoy? And then the idea of convoy 2.0 puts into perspective that there is no convoy 2.0. There could be groups that have spawned off of this situation that happened organically, but the discussion that we had earlier, the idea that there needs to be a catalyst that would spark a revolution within average individuals to pop off within society to create a second convoy is the reason as to why there is no convoy 2.0, because the convoy wasn't a movement. It was a situation that happened organically because people within Canada were frustrated. And so the average individual that was there wasn't on the news and never will be on the news, will never give their perspective. They're not the people that are out there that are even here with you and I that are talking about this stuff. They're people that went there and that did their thing. The people that I know that were in Ottawa are literally the most random people that are like living their lives. They're just like they just do their thing. They went there because they're like, "Oh, this is cool." The reason I went there and I interviewed people here or in close to me was like, um, this is like a life changing international fucking crazy ass moment in history. I'd love to go and be a part of that. Like, I'm gonna go and see what's going on. If you're gonna tell me that all these people are racist and all this weird, crazy shit, I'm gonna go see it for myself. And I went up there and I saw it for myself. I got to see people. I got to interview people. I got to like, I took so much footage and get to see so much stuff. It was amazing. Um, but that's a perspective that I had, right? Um, I just think that the reason that to bring it back, why is it gaslighting?
Mhm.
Because the individuals who were at this event or participated in this initial event are not backing up any sort of. Nobody was even looking. Nobody's looking for this dude with the Confederate flag. Nobody really cared. Nobody. There was dudes on horseback. They were Americans. They were ripping around all day. They're on horseback with their Confederate flags, and everybody fucking loved them. It was sick. Like, yeah, you guys are ripping around your horses. Their horses are probably shitting on the streets, to be honest. Like, thinking back, like these horses were ripping all over the downtown. Like they were probably pooping all over the place. Nobody cared about the Confederate flags. It was the Nazi flag. And on the back of that flag, you had a Confederate flag with a truck, and on the back, it was like a Nazi. I swear, it was a Nazi symbol on the back. If not, Buddy was saying some really weird stuff. I have a bunch of other images. There was another dude that nobody really talks about that was in like a straight Nazi like outfit, like black, tied up around his neck, and like big, straight up big black boots, and his pants were all tight, and he was doing the old little goose walk, he had his hand up, and he had a Nazi flag with a pole, a small pole. It wasn't like a flag, it was like a pole, and the Nazi
Yeah.
flag was on it, and he held that shit, and he went around. Everybody was freaking the fuck out. They cursed him out, got him the fuck out of there. But nobody really cares about that. They only care about this situation that all of a sudden, apparently, it's like he's been found. The racist has been found. It's like, what are you talking about? Nobody was looking for this guy,
No, I
except you
don't
said
think that.
that. You did, but sorry, I was waiting. You said that Brian, or sorry, the other guy, the not Brian Fox, the guy that accused Brian Fox, Miller, whatever.
Yeah,
Miller did say that like they were looking for that guy. Why the fuck would you look for that guy?
because they were looking for them because they were accusing them of being plants from the liberal government.
And he said that he's not a
And,
plant. I saw that. He was like, I ain't no plant from the government. That's it. I ain't no government plant.
but
But he ain't no government plant. That's the whole thing. So like the average
okay,
person, no
I,
one's
I will.
against you. People think Miller's a fucking idiot. Miller's dumb. I think the average person thinks he's a bad lawyer, at least.
But I exchanged with him a lot on Twitter today, and I here's the thing. Um, why, when you know that other convoy supporters have those flags, and they do, maybe they didn't bring them there, but they do support those flags. I have
What
hundreds
flags?
on my
I'm fine with the
videos.
Confederate flag. I'm fine with the Gadsden flag. I'm not okay
But
with a Nazi flag.
I'm not either. I'm not okay with either of the flags, honestly. But the thing is, there are convoy supporters who are good with those flags. I have it in my comments. I'm not
Who?
judging them for
The
that.
Nazi flag.
Point
The Nazi flag, right?
I, if we already know that so many convoy supporters are okay with that flag, why even bother trying to set the government up to say, yep, the government's trying to screw us over. They're trying to make us look like we like these flags. They don't need to make anybody look like they like the flags. We already know that they do. We know they do. Not all of them, but we know that there are some do. So why even try to insinuate that this one guy in the truck or the one guy with the Nazi flag was paid by Trudeau
We
to
gotta
do
say,
so?
we gotta say,
That's
we gotta say, we gotta say Yahtzee. I just realized that
oh
we've been
sorry.
saying that word so much, both of us. We were just yelling it to each other. I saw in the comments, we're like, oh yeah, we've been going hard. But yeah,
I'll
no,
be good.
I
I'll be
understand. I understand what you're saying. No, I definitely see what you're saying, but it's in the same vein as. So I don't think that a lot of people agree with that ideology. And so sort of the same sort of situation with like Antifa and individuals who are going to be sitting there being like, yes, it's a weird situation because I don't know where you're coming from that perspective. It's kind of more of like an Americanized situation with like the idea of Antifa, the idea of radicalized retribution or counteractive protest. by any means necessary getting your point across, and the idea that not all negative actions are like inaction is worse than action in certain realms, even if the actions that you're portraying are negative. And that's not, in my opinion, like, and so I don't know, just to relate this is like there are definitely negatives that come with positive perspectives. And
I think it
I don't know.
depends on how. I think on the right or the left, the more extreme you go, that's what I disagree with. I don't like the extremes on either side. I don't like the extreme leftists. I don't like the extreme right guys. I'd rather talk with people who want to talk about it and not take extreme actions on either side. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I definitely agree. I definitely think that's the most rational way to approach any sort of conversation, and
And
I appreciate it.
I think that when you talk about Antifa, um, the way that I think you're talking about them is the extreme ones from the conversations that you and I have had about like what happened in Portland and stuff. Um, but I think that a lot of other people on the left, when they hear Antifa, it just means anti-fascist, and we are anti-fascists. We don't like fascists, so technically we're all Antifa because we're all anti-fascists. But I think you're talking about the specific group of extremists on the left that take action instead of just people who are against fascism. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Exactly. So I'm right here with you, and I'm flipping it around because I'm in the Canadian atmosphere over here. But I do agree with what you're saying, and I would love to hear your perspective around the idea that, in the same vein that I'm looking at Antifa and the individuals who exhibit those ideologies negatively or to their extremes, you are looking at the individuals who supported the convoy, quote unquote, the convoy, in the same vein, where it's to the extreme where most people who are Antifa, when I think of Antifa, from my base value, it's like if you're a United States citizen, if you were born in the United States, if you consider yourself American, or even in Canada, but mainly in the United States, American, you're inherently you're anti-fascist. America is an anti-fascist nation. They quite literally fought a war over fascism. Um, to be American is to inherently be anti-fascist. You don't need to express yourself as anti-fascist. But some individuals do, and the individuals who do, some have an inherent negative outlook of life, I guess you could say. But that has to do with just ideologies that we put forth. And it goes hand in hand, the same way that you look at the convoy, the same way that I look at Antifa, I kind of feel. So how do you feel?
But
Do you think
I don't
no?
look
Yes?
at I don't look at convoy supporters as all being extremists. I think that there are extremists within the movement. Those are the ones that I really disagree with. And I think a lot of the messages come from there, but I don't believe that the majority of people who supported the convoy are on the far right. I think most of them would identify as center or center right. I don't think a lot of them I don't think a lot of them agree with the extremist ones, but part of their message, I don't think overall that they would identify with that or agree with them, but they agree with the parts that they do agree with. They're willing to put aside the stuff that they don't agree with in order to fight for the things that they do agree with them. If that makes sense. Are you
It
smoking?
does. No,
I
it
knew it.
does. I want to ask you, like, how many people do you think that attended the convoy itself throughout the overpasses and just coming out, and then also at protests? How many people do you think were actually vaccinated compared to unvaccinated?
Ooh, another math question, eh? I'm going to say maybe it might have even been like 50-50. I'm not somebody that thinks that it was an entire anti-vax movement. I do recognize that of course there's vaccinated people who are frustrated with the government too. But I think that the message went out to people who weren't vaccinated first.
Do you think that it is an anti-vax movement?
No, I think it's an anti-government movement.
Okay. Why? Why?
Me?
Yeah, like why do you think it's an anti-government movement rather than an anti-vax movement?
Have you seen how many fuck Trudeau flags there were? That's why I think it's anti-government.
Yeah.
Sorry, was that assholey?
No, that was no. That's like the best. Like that's a great example. I have my phone plugged in and my things at the bottom. No, that's a perfect example. That's exactly it. Like, why would you think that it's an anti-government movement? Because most of the individuals that were there were speaking about government, not. They were
Yeah.
speaking about a lot of mandate issues, but it was based on government rule. It wasn't the I don't like mandates. I don't want to be locked down because I don't want to be. It was I don't want to be ruled over. But it's like, yeah, it's anti-government. It's anti-establishment. It's the mandates themselves seem to be a last straw for a lot of individuals, but that's just a perspective that I saw. What did you see? What did you see were the catalysts that drove a lot of individuals to stand up and join this convoy?
Ah, I think a lot of people I think a lot of people got swept up in the emotion. I think whether you agreed with the mandates or you didn't, I think a lot of us were done with them. Some people more so than others. And if you didn't believe that a question I posed in a lot of my earlier videos when people would disagree with me, I would ask them, do you think this thing's legit or not? And I had varying answers. But I think a lot of people got swept up because they didn't think it was legit, because they were convinced that it was a plan by Trudeau or Schwab, or that the vaccines were harmful and that kind of stuff, and that the government was doing it on purpose. Like the last 3 years sucked for everybody, and it's this guy's fault, and let's go get him. I think that happened for a lot of people. Maybe I'm wrong. And for the other people I've already spoken about, where they were shunned by society and left behind by their family and friends who couldn't accept and didn't want to have the conversation about not being vaccinated or why they didn't want to be vaccinated. And they found each other and they all went together too. I think that it was a combination of a society that we had dismissed finding each other, and also having a big angry a big angry fire being fueled by politicians. And that's the thing that gets me. I don't get why you listen to a politician tell you not to trust another politician. You have a ton of people in this movement who say, well, I don't trust politicians. Fair enough, but why do you trust these guys? That's the part I don't get. I get not trusting all the people that I do trust. I do. I don't understand why you do trust the people that you do. Not you, but the
The
people
people that
who,
do.
yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I
Because they're
100%
politicians
understand
too.
where you're coming from. Little. Oh, we see what you're saying. We know what you're saying. The chat understands. They all understand. We all see what you're saying. We all know where you're coming from. It is a perspective that a lot of people should be thinking of and wondering about. Question that I have for you here right now.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on the vaccine and its effectiveness, its efficiency, and the way that it was introduced to the public?
So I've been quite critical about the communication overall. I think that the biggest mistake that they made when communicating was not acknowledging the change of directions. They just changed direction and they didn't have the patience to talk about why. And I think if they talked about why, they'd had more credibility instead of a bunch of people saying, you must be full of shit because it's not what you said last week. If you're in a situation like this, things are going to change. And they were changing and they still are changing rapidly. And I think that there's less talk about it now because I think they've lost their stamina. And it's it's hard to watch your society not be able to take it and to be hurt so much by it. And I think that they should be talking about it more, and they aren't. And I think that they should talk about the mistakes that they made more, because they did make mistakes, as everybody does. Everybody's fallible, and it's okay to make a mistake, but to pretend that you're not loses you credibility, I think.
Yes, yes, yes. So do you? Okay, I 100% understand, and I feel where you're coming from, and I'd love to move forward with that. But I also want to know, like, do you think that that leads credence to why individuals are so leery around the reception they have to healthcare professionals that are pushed into the spotlight of media, and when they tell them things, there are countless videos I can pull up of people that are pushed into these positions that I should respect and listen to, that told me if I only was to get the vaccine, I would be the end of the transmission. I would stop it. I would be saving everyone. That turns out to be wrong. And it's like, that's clear. Like you said, they should be able to reflect and admit their faults. But I believe personally that they have this feeling that if they just pretend as though it didn't happen, the victors write history. And so just wait 15 years. No one's going to know anything. It doesn't matter what we think right now.
I disagree. I think it's more of they don't want to be unpopular, and they don't want to be bothered. They don't want to give the bad medicine. They give it in short doses instead of just saying, hey, this is the way it is. I know you're not going to fucking like it, but I'm going to say it anyways. I don't think politicians do that in general enough. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why they all come across as bullshitty. The only time they do that is when they're complaining about each other.
People aren't real. And that's why Donald
Yeah.
Trump. Can I just say this? I don't have this written down or anything about Donald Trump, but I want to know your perspective. Personally, I think that people gravitated towards Donald Trump because the way that he promoted himself was like, "I'm not a politician," just straight up like, "Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not good. You guys want to? I'm not that.
Yep.
I'm not what you're looking for." And people are like, "Yep." I do not want the same fucking thing that I've had every single election. And then guess what? It's all bad. It's all bad. It's all bad. It was
Well, I
all
think
bad. It was all
he gave
bad,
a
in my
perception of
opinion, though.
candor. Yeah, I think he gave a perception of candor because he didn't talk like a politician. People automatically thought he must be telling the truth, which he wasn't. But it sounded like he was because he sounded like the people he was talking to.
The guy from The Apprentice is gonna be fucking telling you the truth. It's like, how fucking
I
dumb
think
are
that
you?
I think that helped him too. I think that his popularity on television and his familiarity with everybody because they watched him on television, I think that helped him too. And I think that helped give him a credit that personally I don't think he deserves. I'm not a fan, but I
I think that Trump
understand why people
did.
are.
Can I hear your perspective of this? I think that Trump did disrupt the system and put it on it, like flip it on its head, changed it to a point where it is now better than it was before because it's opened up the door um, to individuals who never would have had eyes on them for the presidency. And individuals who were looked at for the presidency previous to Trump are not people that you and I had ever heard of in our lives. They're people that were groomed for these positions, that are in these elite families and elite positions and elite fucking situations. And now somebody like what's his name? Andrew, the Asian guy from New York. Um, Business guy. Good
Oh, I know.
business dude. Right?
Yeah.
Random guy. Didn't do that well, but had a large platform, was in the run for the presidency in 2020, I believe. And it opens up the door for people like that. If he could have just got off the ground, if he had a better position, if he actually had something that people gravitated towards, okay. But before 2016 or 2015, when Trump started running, that was not an option. It was not an option. You needed to come from an elite family. Nobody's going to let you in the door. You don't need, if you have, AOC is the best perspective, I guess I could say. You don't need the
Love her.
backing from like these elite families. You just need the public's support.
Hmm.
If the public's going to support you, she does not have the backing in her own state to support herself. She has the backing throughout the country. Without her
Hmm.
having a social media presence, she's like she'd be terrible. Nobody would listen
Because
to what
nobody would know
anything this
who.
girl says.
I don't think she would be terrible, but she wouldn't have the backing without social media. I agree with you. And I disagree. I disagree that Trump made it better, but I do understand what you mean. And the only reason I'm going to disagree to say that he made it better is because I think that there's a stronger divide now. I think he created, or he contributed. He didn't create it, but I
He
think he
allowed
contributed.
people to express themselves in that divide. They were already divided, and him being here and allowing people to open themselves up to that was not creating that divide. This divide is here. It's here in Canada as well. It's
Oh
all
yeah.
over. Like the best way I can say things as well is looking at the last two elections in Canada. First of all, 20% of people didn't even fucking vote. And then you look at the people that did vote, and it's so split, not even just like 50-50, but everywhere in the entire country that you're like, okay, so nobody agrees on anything anywhere. Everybody hates each other, I guess. In
And
Canada, Canada's
but here's
worse
the
than the
thing:
US.
only the passionate people are talking about it, and only the passionate people are showing up to vote. My biggest pet peeve is political apathy. And again, it's why I like it here, because everybody here is passionate about it and everybody here wants to talk about it. But go outside the door and see how many people, and
Try to
it's
have a conversation about
frustrating. How
politics
can you
with a
not
random
care?
person. They're not going to
Yeah.
talk to you about politics. They're going to be like, nope, no, I don't care about that. I really don't. I don't
Well,
care. And so
and I
this is
think
the
that's
question
kind of
that.
by design too. Hmm?
But I have to ask you this question, Christy. You understand that the same as I understand that, so that you go outside of your own four walls and you try to have a discussion about politics, and the average individual is not going to really care. And so, what political ideology is pushed forward in the mainstream atmosphere, I guess I could say, within Canada? The mainstream political opinion that would be pushed in front of somebody who does not care about politics, in your opinion.
So here's the thing: people who don't care about politics usually don't watch the news either, or they'll just like take bits and pieces of the news. And I know that there's a
Before
perception
before
that
you
the
continue, before you continue, this is what's different about the world today. People don't get their politics from the news. Pop culture and politics have gone hand in hand, and so they're two of the same thing. What Madonna is doing is the same thing that Joe Biden is talking about, and so they go hand in hand. And so the people that are just consuming information, what would you think that they are consuming? What is the perspective that they would think of trans people, of the convoy, of Antifa, of January 6th? What is the average information do you believe that would be given to somebody who does not care about politics?
I honestly believe that if you were to ask somebody who doesn't know anything about politics, okay, do you think that the media leans, right or left? They're not going to be able to answer you because they don't pay attention. They'll have different ideas about if you first of all, I don't think that the trans thing should be a political issue. It's a person issue. That's just what I think. It shouldn't be political. Everybody's made it political and it shouldn't be. It should just be about people. And if you're somebody who doesn't care about politics, you have an opinion about that regardless. And if there is a certain media that is leaning towards, hey, these guys should be accepted, if you don't believe in that, you're not going to consume that media. I think that people consume the type of media that they identify of what they agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can find right-leaning stuff too. And I think that if those are the things that you already agree with, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to watch. If you're against the LGBTQ community, you're not going to be watching a show with a couple of gay guys on it. You're not, because that doesn't appeal to you. Appeals to me. I'll watch it.
Yeah. There are only a few more. Well, I have quite a few. Who knows? There's a bunch of shit here, but I have a whole bunch of stuff here on the
It's
page.
late where you are. I can like I said, it's only 20 after 8 here. This is
Yeah,
your gig.
we're good. Yeah, all right, we're good. We'll keep going. But I have to ask you this question about this because we're moving into the idea of like drag story time, right? Yeah, lots of people love it. Lots of people hate it.
Yeah.
It depends on where you're coming from. And oh wow, I have a whole bunch of different things that I can pull up there. But either way, a lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it. The question that I have for you is, what are your thoughts around drag queens and drag kings, I guess you could say? The entire ideology and perspective that they are putting forward, does it relate to the LGBTQ whatsoever, or is it a separate situation outside of gender ideology and sexuality?
I'd have to ask a queen. I never have before. I believe that they're part of the community, because my friends who are in the community have talked about queens and have friends who are queens, but I've never asked a queen, hey, do you identify as part of this community or is it separate? I've never asked them your question, but I am going to a drag queen story time this Saturday morning. So I will ask and I owe you an answer. Now that you have opened this door, I would like to talk about this perception of this, the problem that people have with them, and the reason that there's going to be a protest against this thing is the whole grooming of the children accusation. And here's my thoughts on it. They don't fit the pattern. If you look at other people, at other institutions and other businesses who have been caught for this, so we're talking about Hockey Canada, we're talking about churches, we're talking about Boy Scouts, US gymnastics, right? So there's 4 that we know have a problem with this. What do those 4 have in common? They all have the opportunity. They have an opportunity that drag queens don't have. They have an opportunity where the bad guys have access to children without their parents around, and drag queens don't have that. So I don't understand why people would be protesting drag queens when there are other institutions that have this opportunity that we could be looking into instead. But tell me if you disagree.
Well, I don't
Steve
disagree.
from Canada, you don't follow me. You should. I do a whole bunch of stuff about the church. I got more stuff coming out tomorrow too. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you definitely like her. Steve doesn't like me. Steve called me a plague rat, and I don't like Steve at all.
I'm sorry.
He's one of those people that I talked about earlier that I just definitely don't like as a human being. But he can speak his mind as much as he wants, and I'm never going to stop him from coming to the conversation. But yeah, one of those individuals that have shown their true colors to me throughout the conversations that I've had here on TikTok. And there's some people that are just genuinely just not the type of people that I want in my life, and that's okay. We don't all have to agree. You can like somebody that you get along with that I don't have to get along with, and you and I can still be friends. We don't have to we don't have to agree with everybody. Like,
Not everybody gets that. Not everybody gets that. There isn't. We're not captains picking teams here, right? I think that each individual can have different relationships, and if there's somebody that I'm friends with that you don't dig, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean?
great, doesn't matter to me. It doesn't hurt me in any way. It's like that doesn't
But
affect
you
me.
know what I mean, and you probably see it too. It's
Oh
everywhere. As
yeah.
soon as one person has a beef, then there's this feeling of, oh, I'm not being loyal to my friend anymore, which I don't buy into that. I don't sing that
Yeah,
song.
we all have different opinions. We all gotta feel the way that we feel, and like
Yeah.
that's what makes who we are. Like, listen, the friends that I have in like IRL in real life, hence why I would like to have coffee with you and like sit down and like actually talk, because like the people that I actually hang out with in real, my one buddy is so fucking into recycling that he gets so mad if you throw anything out that like, oh my God, he's
Yeah.
insane. He's insane. Like not only
I'm like,
recycling, but composting everything. And it's like, buddy, I'm always like, it doesn't matter, man. You understand that the corporations are doing so much worse. He's like, doesn't matter. You got to do your part. I'm like, shut up. He's like, shut up, man. I'm like, stop. Leave me alone. He's like, nope, throw it out. Throw it out. And like, we're good friends.
you
Like,
don't
we're
have
best
to agree
friends,
on
you
it.
know?
I disagree with you. I'm with your friend on this one, but I do
Yeah,
agree
whatever.
that you can
Do your
still
best.
have good relationships even when you don't even when you don't agree.
Do your best, but
But
it's not
what
helping
did
the
you
world.
think? Back to my drag queen thing.
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean about them? Like if you're gonna like be a criminal minds guy about it, and you're gonna figure out who the next bad guy to get caught is, I think it's so much more unlikely to be a drag queen than
So
somebody
that's
like
not what they're
youth
talking.
leader or
So if I
somebody in
can just
state.
if I can be devil's advocate here, I don't think that's what they're talking about. When people are upset about like the idea of drag, they're talking about the industry itself and how it opens itself up to individuals who are predators. The same as
How?
these political movements. How? The same as these political movements open themselves up to individuals who are susceptible to um, being influenced by people who are willing and able and wanting to influence others or be able to like um manipulate people who are in a weak position. And so the idea is that a lot of people feel as though, well, we're going to have a discussion here. This is going to be a little bit more open. Like we're going to have a little bit of a deeper discussion. The idea of like the LGBTQ community, and then how people do look at drag queens. Like, because you said yourself, you don't think that drag queens, you don't know how to relate that to the LGBTQ. And me personally, my own perspective, I do not associate drag queens with the LGBTQ whatsoever. I don't think it has anything to do with the gender ideology, what your sexuality is, how you feel in any way. I think you could be any sort of individual, and it's a performative art that like you do that has a deeper meaning behind the way that either you're performing for adults or we're moving into a whole different idea with like drag queen story hour, performing for all ages, drag queen fucking performances. These are a whole different ideology. But beyond that, it has nothing to do with being any sort of gender or sexual orientation, in my perspective.
But
But
I think it's probably
I brought
different for you.
I
You
was
think
going to say,
that
just let me
the
say
most
this. Just let me say this though. Just let me say
right,
this. I brought this question up a lot. I brought this question up, and I've never heard anybody else say that everybody believes that it does relate to gender ideology and sexuality. And so perhaps I'm wrong, but growing up watching RuPaul's Drag Race, which I did quite a bit when I was young, I never thought that it had anything to do with being gay or anything like that. I thought that it was just like a thing that some people did. Like some of the guys on the show were gay, some of them were not, and they all just performed this like art form that they loved. They fucking loved it. Either way, they loved what they were doing. That was like the end result. They were like, "We're doing this shit," and it's kind of like it's really artistic. Like, I don't know, it's like makeup and all this sort of stuff. Like I can't do it. I couldn't do it, but they do it, and I just didn't look at it as gay. But everybody that I've talked to does. And so maybe I'm wrong. And this is why I have these conversations. I know that I've rambled for a very long time now. So I'd love to hear your perspective.
I think that Drag Time Story Hour is great. I think that it's good to expose kids to people who are different so that when they're in the real world and they come across people who are different, they're more accepting. I know somebody who was he was a man, but he liked to dress like a woman. And every time he was out, he would get a certain reception. And he shouldn't, just because he's dressing differently. That's what I think. And I think that if we teach kids that it's okay to be different, then they're going to be more accepting. And that's not just about the LGBTQ community, that's about anybody who's different than them. But I feel like the push against the community is because they want us to all be the same. And I'm not a fan of everybody being the same. I think one guy drew a little box. It's very small, and I don't think everybody has to fit in it. But if you don't expose kids to people who are different, then they're not as accepting. When I first moved to Vancouver, I was a little kid. It was my dad and I moved out here, and we went to Chinatown. And I had never ever been around Chinese people in my life. I'd only ever been around people who were exactly like me, and I kept saying, "Oh, this is weird. This is weird. Everything is weird. That smells weird. That looks weird. He's weird." And then my dad grabbed me by the shoulders and he's like, "Listen, kid, just because something's different doesn't mean that it's weird." And I don't think that's the message that a lot of kids are getting. I think a lot of kids are getting the message of being different is wrong. And there's a lot of kids who are different who are going to be pressured into not being different and not being their authentic self. And I think that's super sad. I think everybody should be able to be themselves, whether or not it's popular.
I feel what you're saying. I understand that. I definitely think that they should be able to feel what they're experiencing. It's definitely a true feeling that you have. And everybody that does experience differences has to go through their own growth period where they realize how things are received in society and how we receive things in society can be altered by the way that we have these discussions here in these chats tonight. And the people that listen maybe have children in the future and teach their children not to hate on someone for having some smelly food because this food is smelly for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Just to validate your child's self a little bit.
Thank you. First of all, Salish, happy birthday. I'm not too late. It's only 8:30. Um, but I'm going to tell you a story. I have a granddaughter. She's 4. She came over the other day, and she's a girly girl. Like, she's everything is pink and sparkles and princess. And she has this very strong opinion at 4 years old that boys are boys and boys cannot wear dresses. And I was like, oh no, we need to figure out where that's coming from and get more acceptance, because someday she's gonna come across a boy in a dress, and I don't want her to have this idea of what she thinks is right has to be
How old
right
is
for
she?
everyone. Hmm?
And how old is she?
4. Yeah, she's so
And you
bossy.
and it just like just to influence my next words. You don't have to explain it, but yes or no, you did figure out where this influence was coming from, or no?
Mm-mm. No,
No?
we don't know. No.
So
Um,
it is something you as an individual who is not outside the boundaries of controversial discussions. The idea that this may be an inherent thought that goes back to our biological belief systems. That the way that she has interpreted women in her lives
yeah,
does
but
associate with dresses, and when she sees men, she does not believe that they should be wearing dresses just because biologically, as a 4 year old child who has no bearing of gender ideology, she sees the people that she associates with women in dresses and the people that she associates with men as not wearing dresses.
but she,
Perhaps.
like, we don't even know where the girly girl stuff comes from. The like she when she gets to pick a movie, she always has to have like a female main character, and she's very about females and girl power. Um, and
Can I say this?
yeah,
It's kind of the same as somebody who would be advocating for the fact that they believe that their son or daughter was part of the LGBTQ from a young age, where it's
hmm
like she's firm in her beliefs. She knows what she likes and what she wants. And is that
yeah.
inherently bad though? Because she knows and it's
I,
coming from a straight perspective?
no, I don't think it's bad that she wants to be a girly girl. I think that she needs to understand that not everybody is going to agree and it's okay to be different, and she will understand the more people she knows. Her circle is very small now. She's 4. The more people that she meets and the more life experiences that she has with people who are different than her. All of her experiences right now have been with people who are the same as her, right? And I think that we grow by exchanging experiences with people who are different than we are, and she hasn't had that yet. And she hasn't seen a boy in a dress. It's not that she saw one and said no. How did it come up? I think it was about because she's really against wearing pants too. She doesn't like wearing pants. Everything has to be a dress or a skirt. And then she said no, pants are for boys. And then I think one of us said something. Well, what if a boy wanted to wear a dress? No, pants are for boys and dresses are for girls. And Nana, you shouldn't be wearing pants. You should be wearing dresses. And I don't wear dresses.
It sounds like she saw a movie.
It very could be.
It sounds like she saw like an older movie. It reminds me of like Gone with the Wind type style, like an older movie where it's like just like those gender norms that are not necessarily like those gender norms are not something that I agree with, but they are things that were instilled very hard in certain media aspects. So if she had have seen something, she's young, it could have just like imprinted in her head.
Yeah, she's only 4, and like I said, once she interacts with more people, like once she goes to we're so excited for when she goes to school next year, because her world is going to change. Your kids do change from when their circles go from being this big to being exposed to more.
So I'm gonna ask like a couple more questions, but this is pretty inflammatory. But with this discussion that we're having, it goes both ways. It goes opposite as well. What if she was saying that she was a boy?
That one, because she's only 4, I'm not sure. But I do know somebody to talk to. So I would like to pause it here, but I would love to take this up again. But I'm not educated enough on it. But I do know somebody that I can talk to about it, somebody with real world experience. I don't have any. But I would like to get back, but I don't know enough about it yet to have formed an opinion. But I'd like to, and I'd like to get back to you if that's fair.
No, no, that's fair. I just wondered because we're both seem to be very firm on the fact that formed her opinion on her being a woman and being a girl and what it means to be a woman or be a girl at 4 years old. not a woman, but a girl.
But
Like what it means to be girly and feminine. Not a woman, but feminine. What it means to be
but
feminine at 4 years old, and that's a large like role to put on somebody, or like like that's a big perspective, you know.
I don't think it. I think it's we're making it bigger than it is, and not considering how often kids change too. When I remember her mom at that age, she was a lot different than she was. She had a different, not identity, but she had different preferences. And I wouldn't even say that this is like an identity. I think it's just her preferences. And preferences change as we get older and we change our minds, or we just change our, you change your mind about what
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like.
I know.
Um,
I'm not trying to push you into like any sort of like gotcha moment. Like I said, like I'm just trying to have. I'm just like wondering because it's crazy. Like somebody said in the comments, she's 4. She's literally like a
yeah,
baby. She's literally
yeah.
4 years ago, like a baby. That's a fucking baby. You're barely out of the fucking womb. Um, how do you know anything? It's crazy to think about how human beings like grow and they just turn into people. All of a sudden one day you're like, oh, you're just a full-fledged human being and you're telling me shit that I didn't know. Oh my good
And
god.
I
But
remember,
4 is young
I
though. That's young. That's young to
yeah,
know like a perspective or any sort of like ideology.
and the perspective she has now is different than when she was 3, and it's probably going to be different than when she's 5, right? It's just that that's what it was right now, and the feminist in me went, oh my god, no, you can't think like that.
The feminist in you, yeah, we go back to that, right? Like what does it mean?
she
What does it
she
mean?
is a feminist. she
She's
uh
going to
she,
be
she
treated
had an
differently because she's a woman, and having that perspective will ensure that she's treated differently, in my perspective. But I appreciate where you're coming from, and I understand that why you feel the way that you do. But I think that your thoughts
yeah,
also enforce those thoughts. Without you believing that, it will never continue. Like you are one of the catalysts that continue the behaviors and drives that enforce feminine or I guess misogynist nature against those who want to enact a feminist world. But what is a feminist world? Let me ask you that question, I guess. What is your perfect like if you're a feminist, what would you consider a win, the end goal? Your feminist activism is over. You no longer need to be a feminist. The world is just at what it would be. What would that look like to you?
it would look like everybody being on the same playing field, the exact same starting point, having the same advantages, having the same disadvantages, everybody being the same, not the
Okay.
same, everybody being in the same situation and being able to be different than each other.
I don't know. That's good. No, that's a good perspective, I think. Um,
Equal.
I do
I don't want,
have. No, 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 go on.
no, that's all.
No, no, no. You had something else. What else
No,
were you thinking there?
well, and I was just agreeing with them in the comments. I peeked at the comments.
Oh, you're doing one of those. You're doing a
I
little
did. I
look
did.
see.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm back with you.
Yeah. Back to the conversation.
Yeah.
All right. So I have to ask you. I guess we'll wrap this up a little bit, but I'm going to first pose the question to you, and then I have a final question after that. But is there anything that's on your mind that you'd like to bring up, that you'd like to talk about, that you'd like to say or discuss that you weren't able to discuss throughout the evening?
I'd love to do this again.
That
I
was good. I
would.
think it was really fun. I'd love to do it again as
We're
well.
going to ask you questions.
I'm down. One day we'll do it. Even over on here, if you want to do that. But
Pardon?
on your channel, as well. I said even over
Yeah,
on here if you want to do one of those. But
sure.
because you're such a good person. Like, listen, you don't meet many people on, especially on the internet, that you can disagree with, but also have a good conversation with. So, like, I would literally, I respect you enough to pass the channel off to you for an evening and have you host and like take a step back and just be a talking individual, right? Because you are good, you're good enough, you're good. Like I don't, you don't, you're not inflammatory. It's hard to meet people like that. It really is. I think
I would
you've been on here for a
horrible
little bit,
because I like to talk so much. I wouldn't be good at just asking questions because I would jump in there with my own opinions too much, but I will try to be disciplined so that I can ask you questions. But I'd love to continue this conversation and keep it going. I have a lot more to say. I don't know now, but I could do this for days.
right? When you
Yeah.
when you find somebody that's able to actually formulate their opinion and you can ask things that you have wondered about certain aspects of political opinions that somebody holds, and they're able to respond, it really helps you understand where people are coming from and not look at the other side as like this vicious, random, wild, fucking wildcat enemy that doesn't fucking have any semblance of rationale. It's like, no, you have real opinions based on actual ideologies, and there's reasons as to why you believe what you believe. And that's why I try to have these conversations to understand where people are coming from. And so you're the perfect person to discuss things with. So I appreciate that.
Much. I think it's important to remember that we are all just people and we're not just enemies. I think that a lot of there's a lot of people who benefit from us believing that we're enemies with each other, instead of people who disagree.
Mm-hmm.
We do have enemies. I get that. I'm not naive. I just think that the majority of people who disagree aren't in that category.
I don't think that like a lot of the enemies, quote unquote, are not actually willing and able to speak their minds and expose their ideologies. And so
Yeah.
in the next week here, I have Fire That Sees. I can't
Okay.
remember her first name. She's coming
Michelle.
up, and then also Becca. So those are the two for next week that I have coming up, and I think that's a very good perspective. As long as Becca wants to come in, she's supposed to come in yesterday, but said she couldn't, and we hopefully will get in next week. But two individuals who are completely opposed, and I think that would be a good juxtaposition of ideologies. I think that you and Auntie were a good juxtaposition of individuals who are very open to conversations in a very easy way for me to get comfortable for the conversation. It wasn't too controversial because both of you have different opinions, but you're both very easy to discuss and have conversations with. So I appreciate that. I do have a
Again,
final discuss.
asking it.
I do have a final question for you here, though,
All
and
right.
I'm going to flip my camera and I'm going to give the floor to you. But I want to know if you need a moment to think. Give yourself a moment to think. I'm going to give you a little clap here before and a little cheer because that's what you deserve. But where do you see yourself at this time, this month, just after New Year's, next year, within your content, in your own life? How do you think you're going to be feeling, and where do you see yourself? So take a second to think before you respond and a little. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Yeah. 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 Christy, we got Christy here, and we're going to discuss where you're going to be at next time this year.
All right. So on here, by next year, I'm gonna have my 10,000 followers by then, so I can make playlists, and I'm going to have uh, a more organized page. I think that if you don't know me and you were just to come on my page, I don't think you would have an idea of what I believe in because my stuff is I got Alex Jones, I got Convoy, I got the church, and I would like to make playlists. I would also so the freelance business that I'm going to be building is in communications, and I would like to use all of everything that I've learned about how different we all are and different perspectives and what different people relate to. I would like to use that to build my business in being able to communicate with everybody and not just people that would think like me. That's where I want to be next year. And I want to be traveling.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Where do you see
But
your content on TikTok, though? Where do you see yourself on TikTok? Do you think you're still going to be posting content like you are right now, or where do you think you're going to be posting
yeah,
about?
absolutely. I haven't even been doing this a year, man. I'm just getting started. I get so inspired by what I see, what other people are doing, and what other people leave in my comments. Um, More so than when I see something in the news that sometimes inspires me. But like I said before, most of the time I'm inspired by you guys about what you're putting in my comments and the content that you're making. Um, and I'd like to be making more, but in a more organized fashion so that it makes more sense instead of just my sort of squirrel brain of whatever inspires me, that's what I'm putting out. I'd like to maybe put more thought into it so that it makes more sense to people who are following me and so that I can build on from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes 100% sense. I
I'd also love to have a podcast one day just because I love talking about this stuff so much. That's something that that I might start looking into.
yeah, well, shoot me a DM. I've been in the discussions around figuring something out with a few individuals. We could do it online or in person, depending on where people are. But yeah, no, I definitely appreciate your voice here in the atmosphere of what we're doing on TikTok. And I thank you for coming out. And I think that we've learned a lot more. Anybody that's been in here in the conversation, we've learned a lot more about you and your opinions, as well as I don't know how you feel, but I think this is a better way to conduct ourselves in these conversations. If you know somebody or you've had a conversation in the past and you'd like to have a future conversation, try to do it one on one because
Yeah,
we all argue with each other all the time, but you don't really get to learn very much about the person when you yell at each other all day, every day on live stream.
I agree. And I will be letting all of the Ontario TikTokers know the next time I'm in Ontario. I would love to meet as many of you guys as I could. I really would.
I
My
love
mom
the I yeah, yeah, next time you're in Ontario, definitely that would be super sick. Like this little thing, okay? First of all, I just wanted to say Crazy Twacy says love your content. I don't know if she's saying that to me or you, but I know that she vehemently hated me before I started these discussions and actually like I don't know. I feel like I'm expressing myself a little bit more here. It's like I'm not a bad person. I'm here for the conversation. I'm just willing to listen to any perspective. Like I'm not afraid of having listening to bad perspective. I don't care what you have to say. I'm not easily triggered and I'm not a triggered person. Like I don't care. And I'm sorry if people do get upset from hearing certain perspectives that have happened in the past. But it happens. That's what happens when you let five, six people on the stream. You get a lot of things going
Yeah,
on. That's why we're here to have one-on-one conversations because then I can moderate what the type of discussion and chat we're going to have is. And I like the kind of discussions that we've been having. Um, you don't. I
I
don't need to agree with you. I don't need to agree with you to listen to what you have to say. You know, it's like a lot of things you said tonight. I don't agree with, but I'm glad that I got to hear them and everybody else got to hear them as well, because they more than likely are correct. I just don't need to. I don't. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't agree, but they're correct. They're real things. They're. You know, it's like I don't know. People are so angry all day, every day.
yeah, and it goes back to before about how this has made me better at listening to other people instead of no, I disagree with that. You're wrong. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's been
100%.
quite a journey. Dig it.
That's the thing here on TikTok. That's why I am interested in having these conversations to understand where people are coming from when they started getting on social media, and a lot of people are just starting their journey. So you, the same as some other people that I've talked to, you're starting your journey. When I started this, I like where you are at right now, and I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, and this is why I don't really bring this up. I have brought it up a couple times in the past couple streams, but like, I'm not trying to sound like an asshole. Where you are at right now is where I was at mid 2015, where I was like,
Okay.
oh, shit's fucked. Oh, this is weird. Like I've said this before, I was quite literally a black supremacist. Almost. I was right there. I was like right there. Like
Interesting.
I thought everything was like, I thought it was all fine. I didn't even realize that it was bad. And then I moved. I was living in BC, and then I came back to Ontario, and then I like took a step back from social media, and then about 3 months later, I came back and I started looking at the pages that I was following before, and I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck were these guys? Yo, wait, what?" They were
Yeah.
saying like, "Yo, wait, what? Like all white people are just like the scum of the earth?" Like, wait, what do you mean? I'm like, wait, I was in this. I was like, I thought these guys were right, and I was like, holy shit! Like I was like inundated. I was like, I fell down that rabbit hole. So I understand how it feels to fall down a rabbit hole, like get into something where like you're not questioning, you're not fully in that like I see how people can be there, but when you take a step back, it just takes, it's kind of like quitting smoking. You take 3 weeks off and you're like, why was I ever doing that?
I've been clean for 8 years. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Someone just said Todd doesn't really understand reality, and I assume they mean me because my name's Todd now, apparently, which I
Yeah, your
love.
name's Todd now. I love that.
I love it. Like I think people started trying to do that like to like make fun of me or something. I was like, I literally changed my
No,
name
I
to
think that
Todd
they just
because
think that's your name.
I love it. I love it because like I was like, yo, this is so far from my name that like it makes me like, oh, this is so funny. I'm like, I love it. It differentiates who knows me and who doesn't know who I am, especially the people that have been following the stream. Um, but call me Todd. Everyone call me Todd, please, because I love it. It's such a good name. Um, Todd's a
Solid name.
funny fucking name. Who's named Todd? I've never even met a Todd before in my life.
Yeah, how have you
Like
not met
that's so
Todds? You
good.
don't know any Gen Xers?
I've never met a Todd in my life. Never one
I
person
know
has
tons of
ever been. What is
Todds.
his name? I always think in my head, I'm like, what is his name? Toddathy? Like, what is his name? Like Todd? Toddathy? What's
Well,
the
he
full
usually has
name?
two
Todd?
D's.
That's what someone just said in the chat. What's the actual name? Like, what's the full pronunciation? Todd? Todd what? Like,
Just Todd.
Todd? Toddeth?
Just Todd.
Like, what? That's not a name.
Just
That's
Todd.
not a name. That's not even a
It is
name.
so.
That's not even a real name.
Yes, it is.
Todrick. That's a good one. Todrick.
It's
Theodore.
not
Oh,
Toddrick. It's just Todd.
Theodore. Yo, no, it's
Oh, yeah,
Theodore for
Theodore.
sure. It's definitely Theodore. Yeah, that's sick. Yo, that is a sick name. I'll take that all day. My name's Theodore now, boys and girls. Todd for short. Ooh, take it all day. Give me that. Todd. Damn, that's sexy
So,
too. Theodore?
can I ask you? Because I haven't been paying attention to the comments. Is there anything that we're going to get in trouble for tomorrow?
I
That's a
don't think
legit
so. No,
question.
everyone's
All
been
right.
very like respectful. I don't think anybody even actually asked any questions. Asked. I just said that like a black person. I am black. I know that I am black, but I'm not like an African American. But I did say asked. Holy fuck, that was insane. Guys, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask Christy in the comments below that I have not asked throughout the evening? Um, I'm going with
And I'm
Theodore
sorry that
probably.
I didn't say hi to everybody that said
No,
hi to
Becca
me.
doesn't
So I'm saying
spank
hi,
anyone.
everybody,
We're
now.
spanking every single individual here on this channel every single time they come in. I'm sorry, Christy, that you just got spanked, but it was just a light spanking because it was fun. It was not like a negative thing.
All good. All good.
Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you liked it. It wasn't anything negative.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yes,
And
that's what
thanks for
made
letting
it.
it run long too. It's like almost midnight there.
Of course, because we got started late, and I have more things on my like. Hey, I didn't get to. I'll try to flip this. I guess. No, I don't know. I can't get it up. Um, I have so many things on this page. Like, oh, you cannot see shit. Like
Do we
this
need a
is
part
like
two?
so, oh no, there's definitely a part two. Yeah, there's so many
All
things
right.
that we didn't even get to, but I do need to end it soon because like we're right here near the end. But I'm looking in the
Okay.
comments and nobody's really
Can I
asking
address
questions.
one one
They're all just
question?
talking you up. I don't know if you can see, but everyone's just
No,
saying
no. I
good,
saw
good
there's
things.
there is a question from Sterling
Okay, okay.
about ableism in the leftist spaces and feminist spaces. Um, First of all, I want to thank Sterling for teaching me about ableism. I didn't know anything about it before, and I've always been a fan of how she gently nudges people to not use certain hashtags and certain language. And I hope that
Ableist
if
terms.
like um she Sterling was the one who was nudging people to stop using the hashtag free dummies, which isn't something that I used
I made a
anyways,
video
and
about
I
that.
understand.
Nobody cared on the left. They all said you're dumb. They don't. Well, so they all made fun of me and they said you don't
This
care.
is
I
her
said, what's the
point.
difference between? Okay,
This
go
is
on.
her
Sorry, I'm
point
sorry for
of
talking over you.
why are we
Yeah.
using that kind of language when on the left unless I'm wrong, um when we're supposed to be more accepting. I think in general we should only use language that's going to be able to connect with people. If you're using language like dumb, your ears are shutting off, just like how I talked about how I don't use the words like conspiracy theories anymore because you're shutting ears off. As soon as you
Can
call
I say
somebody dumb,
something? Can I say something inflammatory?
yep,
My video was discussing the idea of people on the right calling people libtards and individuals on the left calling people free dummies, and then looking at
yeah,
the idea of what both of those words mean and reflecting on how it actually impacts communities that have to deal with these situations. And
I think it's wrong on both
and
sides.
but why am I a right wing individual when I'm making videos that have to do with questions like this? It makes me upset. So like right now, we're kind of like done with the interview. I'm just like talking with you about
Okay,
things because like I'm just like it's weird. Like why the fuck would somebody call me? Like I don't know because I ask questions and shit. Like am I problematic? Am I too problematic? What's going on? Why do people care so much? Why am I on the right? I don't even like politics. I hate politics the most. I've been inflammatory in my streams and called everybody on both sides bad words. Like I literally hate politics, yet people call me right wing racist. By the way, I'm more white than you in this stream. I've been watching that. I'm like I look so fucking pasty white for some reason.
look at our skin.
You look
Yep,
like I'm pink. I'm like a pink. I'm a pink person,
you are pinker than me.
right?
But I
Look
think
at
in
that.
general, I think any insult, whether wherever you're coming from, right, left, whatever, if you're insulting somebody, um, what's your goal? What's your goal? My goal is to have a conversation, and nobody's going to want to talk to me if I'm insulting them. Um, I don't think insults have any place in civil discourse in general. I don't care where it's coming from.
Yes, 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 yes. Of course, of course.
And yeah,
I'm gonna
and
ask
Jimmy
you
pointed out that
if
Sterling
you're down to
stopped
hang
that
out for a
hashtag
little.
in like a week.
Sorry, what?
That Sterling, Jimmy had pointed out that Sterling stopped that hashtag in like a week, which I got mad respect for. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Yes. 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 If you're down to talk for like a minute or two, this is like after hours stream.
All right.
Um, I'm gonna probably like because I re-upload. I'm gonna re-upload all these streams to YouTube. So I have the one with Auntie up there. But this one
Okay.
I'm gonna have to cut up anyways because I have to bring the other stream and this stream together, and it's gonna be fucking stupid. I hate editing so fucking much. This is why I stopped making videos. So I've been making videos since like 2015, since I came back
Wow.
here, and oh yeah, but no, I was
Honestly,
doing
you
pretty
had
good
told
on.
me if you would have told me last year, right after New Year's, oh, you're going to be putting videos out, you're going to be going on the internet with no makeup on sometimes and spewing your opinion, I would have called bullshit. I would have never seen myself doing this ever. And it's so weird to think about that now because I'm so in love with it. I just,
So
I've like found a
I've gone
passion
through
here.
some stages here, yo. I think that you would have been like right there. Yeah, but editors make mad money. Yeah, oh, sorry, I'm not gonna say that. Just because I realized who it was. She'll behave. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, editors make mad money. I could make mad money if I just wanted to edit fucking other people's videos, but I don't want to do it. I've had a few offers, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, this is the worst part of making videos. But yeah, no, I think that you would have been a very good contributor to that era of content. And so, like, I was making content back in the day when it was like SJW versus fucking yada yada. Like SJW does this, and like
Oh,
weird,
okay.
like and like before on the street interviews were like the thing, and then the whole like on the street interview thing, and like response videos, and like the whole weird like I before MGTOW, like the idea, like somebody was like the idea that like the whole country in Canada was like, oh, Peter Polyev tagged MGTOW in his hashtags, and that's like a secret hashtag. And I was like, you don't know anything
I
about
don't know
this,
what MGTOW is.
like men
I don't,
going their own
sorry.
way. That's what it stands for.
Sorry?
MGTOW. It's an acronym. MGTOW is an acronym for men going their own way.
Hmm.
So it's like essentially a group of internet individuals similar to incels. You know incels, right?
Yes, I do.
Involuntary celibate
Yeah.
individuals. Like I just said individuals, but people like involuntary celibate. Um, it's similar to that, but it's more so along the idea of men who reject the idea of modern society's relation between how men and women have to have a symbiotic relationship in order to prosper in society. And they say the same as many women say, I'm just going to live my life, not think about getting a partner, not think about like that aspect of life, and just focus on myself, focus on my life and what I need to do. But it comes into many more discussions when you have groups that are formed that have individuals that are part of these groups that are also part of other groups that people disagree with that are also I don't know, fucking weird
I don't
shit.
think that for an individual to have an idea of, I want a relationship like in the 50s. I want to be a wife who just stays at home and cooks, and I want to have a husband who goes out. I don't think that there's anything wrong with wanting that. I think that there's something wrong with thinking that everybody wants that. I don't think that we should all have to be the same. But I have friends who that's what they would prefer. That's great. And we can agree to disagree. I just don't, I think that there's a push for everybody to want that. And I disagree with that. I think it's okay for one person to want that. I don't think it's okay to make everybody else want it,
Mm-hmm. And I definitely am
which
right
doesn't
there with
surprise
you.
you.
No, not even close, because that's a reasonable perspective. That seems to be right there where the majority of people should probably be. It is what it is. It is society. We should be respectful of each individual idea if we're going to be
Should.
respectful of any idea if we're going to have
Yep.
an open society. But yeah, no, I do definitely need to end the stream. This has been a very good discussion, and I do want
Thank you very
to
much.
have more of this and continue it on. There are many more topics here on the board, but I know that if I get into any of them, it's going to be another hour or two that
Oh,
we
yeah.
end up having a conversation. So perhaps we will schedule something for next week or the week after, but hopefully
Let
next
me
week, and
know.
I'll do more than two. Yeah, definitely come back out anytime, and I appreciate your voice. If there's anything that you'd like to say here at the final moments of the stream, the floor is yours, Christy.
I'm good. I wanted to thanks, Shell. I just wanted to say hi to everybody who said hi to me in the messages that I didn't say hi back, and I'm not trying to be a snob. I was trying to pay attention. But I had a really, really good time. Thank you very much. I can't wait to do this again.
Thank you for coming out. I appreciate your voice, and I appreciate everything that you said this evening. I think that it's taught me a lot, and it's taught everybody in the chat, hopefully, a lot as well. So, thank you.
All right. So we'll talk soon.
Of course, hit me up, and we will figure things out.
Love you, Lila. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night. Good conversation.
I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody that's been here in the chat below. That's given their perspective. Christi was an amazing host this evening, and I believe that we will have many more good conversations in the future. With that being said, thank you guys for coming out and giving us your perspectives here, letting us know what you think and telling us what's on your mind. My name is Elder, and if you didn't know, be your own hero, kids.